Good afternoon and welcome to another in our series of TalkSports, the Saturday Sports Special. What do you know? It's our final program for December and literally our final program for the year 2020. Welcome everyone. And a special program today, I should say, because while it is an open program, open discussion to be exact, we have lots of prizes. Well, I should say we have prizes, we have giveaways. Okay, you can win yourself a chance. Well, you will win a ticket and a chance in a virtual bingo that will be staged on Sunday with prize money of up to 25,000 US dollars. Yes, I said US dollars. So if you answer the questions correctly, you will win a ticket and a chance for the bingo, right? So that will be part of our program. But it's an open discussion. I will be discussing everything. We'll be looking back at 2020, the year in sports. Well, obviously, how it was affected by COVID and what we had as sports. And some of the expectations for 2021. Obviously, cricket, especially West Indies cricket, will be on the spotlight as well because West Indies undertook two tours, I should say. England and then off to New Zealand. And I know there will be a lot to discuss about what folks would have seen regarding West Indies under the circumstances, though. Lots of cricket being played now, international cricket to be exact, and we'll hear the views from those who believe that we can do better. So that will be one. Then we'll be looking at football. We'll be looking at club structure, open discussion with track and field. I expect to hear some folks to talk about track and field. Mike Batiste, I know you wanted to discuss some things on that. And as I said, the questions will be asked and you have a chance to answer and win yourself a ticket for the virtual bingo, the Waggy T Virtual Bingo that will be held on Sunday, December 20th. And wherever you are, you can actually play if you have the ticket, So we'll be asking 2 questions during the first hour and another 2 questions in the second hour of the program. So do stay tuned for those questions and provide the answers. You will be able to provide your answers right there on Facebook in particular. So that is what we'll be discussing. So as I said, it's a open discussion, and I want to start off with something that has been happening of recent development, I should say, regarding a club, one of the oldest sporting clubs in Grenada, that of Queen's Park Rangers. And I say one off because there are so many sporting clubs that can claim being the oldest, but Queen's Park Rangers. And over the past week or two, we have been hearing reports of some problems within the entire club structure and moves to revised constitution to get a club up and running again. It has not been doing too well in terms of structure. Talent-wise, from what I understood, is that it's there, football, especially among the youth, but some disinterest, and we have already seen the splinter of Queen's Park Rangers to an extent. Well, we have FC Cameron, led by Anthony Modeste, and his brother, Patty Modeste, has also left Queen's Park Rangers and is also with FC Cameron. There's another player I understood who also left Queen's Park Rangers. And if things, based on the reports I've been hearing this week up to yesterday, Friday, if things are not in order before the end of the year, they expect to be further split within the Queen's Park Rangers, not necessarily to, as I said, FC Cameron, but some of the players are looking at other avenues, other areas that they can go and play football, and it has to do with the entire structure of the Queen's Park Rangers club. As you know, um, Queen's Park Rangers is quite a stable to the community of River Road and Queen's Park, and some of the surrounding, even as far as Tempe. If Queen's Park Rangers is playing, you have folks in Tempe and Montparnasse, Lamode, and even Bolio that will come and look at Queen's Park Rangers, and not forgetting even the Tongue area. So it has really, put a lot into the community, and we're really hoping that something could be done. And I'm hoping to speak to one or two individuals during the course of the program regarding the whole issue regarding Queen's Park Rangers. It may be a similar situation regarding other clubs throughout the island, but this is particular that we have been hearing about, and I know there have been attempts to have some meetings and have some discussions, and folks who showed up at a meeting that was called, but then they said the meeting was specifically for players, and some thought it was actually for club members or members to be, in terms of getting the club up and running. And there seems to be a lot of confusion regarding that, and I'm hoping that that could be sorted out. That's Queen's Park Rangers club. It's not affecting the netballers, though. The netball is led by Barbara Simpson, and there was also talk for probably the Barbara Simpson and her team, to probably see if they can take over the whole structure of the club and, reintegrate once again football and netball, because as it is, football seems to be on one side and netball seems to be on the other side. I'm seeing that I'm trying to see if I'm seeing that we have Anderson Gaskin is trying to make connection with us. Gaskin, are you hearing us?
Yes, sir, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
We're not seeing you, but good to know that you're on. I wish we could have seen. I think you sort of making some connection now, but seeing as you're hearing us loud and clear, and I believe, Anderson, you can be able to speak on the Queen's Park Rangers issue. If you're hearing me, what is the situation regarding Queen's Park Rangers as it is now?
Well, what I do know is that the president probably want to call it quit, want to call it a day in terms of his valuable effort that he has made to Queen's Park Rangers over the years. And in doing so, I think an interim body was elected by himself, which caused kind of controversy with the members of Queen's Park Rangers, the ex-players and friends of Queen's Park Rangers thought that shouldn't be. There should be a meeting where they elect an interim and not a selection of an interim by the current president or outgoing president. So that's where it is at. Persons want a meeting that they could select an interim for a year, for 2 years, and see how we best we can guide Queen's Park Rangers into prominence as they were before.
Okay, but you know how important Queen's Park Rangers is a club to the community and communities, I should say, surrounding communities. Quite a few players and ex-players, and you can just go down the line calling names, whether it's Zagada, whether it's Zagada Cyrus, Jude Bullerhead, you can just name some of the legends of Grenadian football who would have been part of the Queen's Park Rangers structure. So any sort of issues that you raise there will be of concern. So how close do you think there is to resolving whatever issues they have within the club?
Well, I don't think it's close. It's up to Mr. Griffith, who is the current president, to call a meeting for the community, the ex-players and supporters, and explain what is going on right now. Between me and you, Mike, there hasn't been a meeting for Queens Park Rangers for a number of years. Just a couple persons handling the affairs of Queens Park Rangers, the negotiations for sponsor, the collaboration with GFA, and so maybe one or two persons. We had tried to have meeting in the past. We will select a executive, and after that, no meeting has called. So we just see a recurrence of that happening. But I think this time around, going into 2021, it's time for Queens Park Rangers to have a structure, and a structure where probably every 2 months you have meeting where you plan not just for the team to play in competitions, but you plan activities and so for the community. There are a number of things that can be done to assist the community. Even the said players right now, they're under 16, under 15, the women players, the senior players. It's just not about football anymore this time around, but in terms of the holistic development of players and the community, we really need a proper structure in place, meaning president, vice president, secretary, PRO, um, just name it. Like
Yeah.
we need all the support.
What's about and also the constitution? The constitution needs to be revised, right? Because it would have been many years since Queens Park Rangers have not had an updated constitution.
Yeah, I think that is one of the main goal. I have the constitution in my position. I was going through it. And yeah, there are a lot of things that it's way back. We quite in 2020 to 2021, and some of the things there, is no more. There's a lot of things that can be taken out or added. And
Mm.
as I said, there is a interim in place, which we heard about. That's why we went to the meeting. But that interim wasn't selected by the club itself, but it was selected by the outgoing or want to retire president. And so people think that it shouldn't be like that. If you call a meeting, Queens Park Rangers, and you let them know that you're looking to retire, you want to hand it over, but there must be an interim, or you call a meeting where you can select executive. But in terms of just picking one or two people but by hand, that alone show that we do have a good structure and we're not following the constitution.
Yeah, and I'm hearing speaking to other members. Well, and I should when I say other members, persons related to Queens Park Rangers itself.
Mhm.
One of their concern was about the how that can affect that structure there, how it can also affect on-field play, because the concern was that hey, we have quite a number of young and talented players, the age group under 17. In fact, even speaking to Bruce Swan earlier this week, I think Bruce identified young players from the Queens Park Rangers team itself. But the concern is that if what you're saying there is allowed to fester, then that could also implode and affect the performance, meaning that some of the players may feel a bit disjointed, disinterested, and probably move on to other clubs, as we have seen with the splinter regarding FC Cameroon. Is that a concern for you, Gaskin?
Yeah, it will be a concern, and it is a concern not for me but for others. But to be honest, I do believe that the interim persons maybe have Queens Park Rangers at heart. Knowing some of them personally, I
Mhm.
believe that they do have Queens Park Rangers at heart. They love football. They like being around young kids, young children, the youth. But it's just how it has been done is really the issue by a lot of persons in the community. But I do feel that it will fester, yes. Do we want to teach the kids the right thing to do, or do we just do things anyhow and then teach them the right thing? So I think an example has to be set from the start, where you call a meeting with players, friends, families, community members, and do the right thing in terms of choosing an interim or have an election. If you think that we're not ready for election, but you want some persons to handle the affairs of the club still, I think it should be done the proper way, where you call the community together and you still look at an interim that the community wants, the players want, and then we go forth from there. But for now, I think the interim is just to um, handle the affairs of the club in
Mhm.
terms of playing, in terms of the connection with GFA and getting them to play or receiving monies. And I think that it is what it is now, because obviously football have to go on. The club needs to participate. But I just think for me, the right thing has to be done. And if we need to set example, we need to start to do it from the start, where Queen's Park Rangers called a general meeting to all and sundry, all the people who concern and interested and support Queen's Park Rangers, the ex-players, the present players, should be invited. And there we see like an interim, which will probably for a year or two, and then see how we could get a lot of things done through that interim body, and not
Uh,
just play football. As
yeah.
you know, I'm a youth officer, and I'm not only thinking football. I thinking ways and how we could develop them. Said youth is a young team. We do not have the experience of the names that you call. When I came into Queens Park Rangers, I had Chenny Joseph and Dalla Drayton and Hamas Phillip, all these big people. I think I got a piece with Bumpy, not Bumpy, but
Bombo?
Bumbo Nelson,
Bombo
right?
Nelson. Yeah.
So it was a young and old. So as the old phase out, the young take over and become old and the young. But now we only have young players. There is no big experienced long-term players who playing that the
Mhm.
young persons could take over from. If everybody is young, we need to instill that kind of discipline and so in them at this point.
Yeah, because I still wonder why someone as Ricky Curry Charles is not part of the, I mean, playing football as how you have Patrick Modeste with FC Cameroon playing as a experienced player among the young ones. Someone like Ricky Curry Charles could be, suited up and be among those young ones as an experienced player, because he is, from all reports, he is still training and he is willing to play. But Gaskin, the other problem has to do with how are members financial? I mean, you talk about calling members together and having a meeting and say,
Mhm.
but there is a contentious issue of whether or not members are financial to do such a thing. I mean, how do you get around that?
Right. Good question. I smile when you actually asking it, because as I said, I was going through the constitution during the week, and especially the in terms of being financial with the club and so, but between me and you, I don't even think anybody, not even the interim, is financial in the club, because as I said, nothing was happening,
Oh.
and you cannot blame supporters or ex-players or even the players right now in terms of being financial, because there is no meeting, there is nobody checking the finances to make sure everybody on par. There is nothing that will say,
Mhm.
okay, we're calling a meeting and people need to be financial. Walk with your $5 and pay up, or if you're owing 100, walk with it. So you cannot blame people for
Right.
not being financial, because there is no meeting, there is no organized stuff so that people could pay up. But as far as I see it, no one in the club is financial. No one at all could say that they've been paying the subs and so on.
Well, quite a lot of work to be done over the next next few weeks, and I'm just hoping that something could be done regarding the whole Queens Park Rangers saga. As indicated, you know, Queens Park Rangers itself has done quite a lot for the community, and therefore we need to solve this problem. Gaskin?
Yes, we do. My thing is that, Michael, is that I could be wrong. I could be privy to correction, but I haven't seen anything done for the community from the by the club in a very long time. You know, I think as a club, we should be giving back. I remember the support that we got from before. A lot of people, buses to the country, all this kind of thing. And I think that, as I say, football is more than on the field. If you check the international players, the basketball players, they give back to the community. They help feed the needy, they fix a roof, they do something, so I believe as Queen's Park Rangers or as any football team in Grenada, if they're not doing it, that we need to go back. We could clean somebody's yard, we could put up a roof, build a step, do hampers, do something that people can see that we and the community together. There was River Road Festival before. We could call it a different name. We could have all these kind of things to get back and I must say, when COVID is over, right? I must say, when COVID is over, we could go back
Yeah,
to the River Road Festival if you want to call it another name. I think in the meeting we talk about some fundraising ventures. We haven't raised funds in a very, very long time. We talk about travel for the team. Queen's Park Rangers haven't traveled in a while. But then
yeah,
you have to be willing to travel because where the funds will come from.
right.
So there's a lot of things I think that could be put in place. There's a lot of people I
Mhm.
know who could come on board and make a valuable contribution. As well, I believe there are people on the interim right now that could make a valuable contribution, but we just
Mhm.
need to do the thing properly, do it
Right.
professional, and
Mhm.
and I think that's where the grievances between the community, the young players, the old players, the ex players, that's where the grievances is because I can tell you, I was in that said meeting you talk about with I was in that said meeting where you talk about people come in and so, but that wasn't what the meeting was about, and people came in angry, that was happening.
Mhm.
People, come prepared to debate about the executive and the interim and how they come about and so, but was told that's not what the meeting was for, and they left. But knowing me, I not about interim or executive. I just for young people, and I just wanted to hear some of the plans and whatever the interim had for the players. So I stayed on until the end.
Mhm.
I to some members of the interim, and that's just me. But a number of the ex-players left because they
Mhm.
come basically to talk about the executive and how the interim come about and so. But I was just general. I stayed until the end.
Okay then. All right then, Andy. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate. Okay, and we'll
Yeah,
keep
you're
in
welcome,
touch.
Mike.
Okay
Yeah,
then.
anytime.
Right. Okay. So that's Andy Gaskin live from Grenada, St. George's, Grenada, giving us something on the Queen's Park Rangers, and I'm sure the debate will continue. Let's go over to this is now Glenn. Yes, Glenn, you'll have to unmute Glenn so I can hear you. I know you somewhere. um, you do have to unmute so I can hear you. And um, let me see. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. When Glenn is on mute, we'll have him back on. But I want to say thanks to Andy for that insight into the Queen's Park Rangers saga. Um, and all right, so let's go over to Glenn and hear what's Glenn. Good afternoon to you, Glenn. Well, you unmute, but somehow I'm not hearing you. I think your volume, you need to put up your volume. Glenn is this type of person, as you'll realize. He's always on the move. He's trying to get his audio sorted. Think he will be back with us, folks. Don't forget that we have a question coming up. We have two questions rather in this first hour, and it's your chance to win. Um, you know, yeah, your chance to win. Uh, a bingo ticket, virtual bingo. Yeah, yeah, virtual bingo. Good afternoon to you, Hazel. Hazel is one of our revered viewers, listeners, and let's. Glenn is still muted, but we I think he will get out and then come back in. So let's wait for Glenn to get back. So while you're waiting and we're waiting, well, Glenn had put, yeah, he put this, just join it, Andy. You're so correct. Always look up to Queen's Park Rangers and please move from a group of players going to play games and have an organized structure. Many more clubs should take that lead, including Combined Northerners, my past club. Right. Yeah, indeed. So we want to move away, as he's saying, just about going and play games, playing a football game, playing a netball game, but more about having an organized structure. And I think that's the way to go, as Andy was saying, and now Glenn is actually saying. We wait for Glenn to get back to us. Let me put up my first question. Should I? Should I? Yes, should I? And yeah. Question number one. How many sub 44 seconds Kirani James has recorded in the 400 meters? And you should give 3 of these recorded times. Question. How many sub 44 seconds Kirani James has recorded in the 400 meters? Sub 44 seconds, remember. Not 44 seconds, sub. If you're following, you should know what is sub 44. And give 3 of these recorded times. Question. Correct answer. You win yourself a ticket for the Waggy T Virtual Bingo. Question number 1. Let's see if those folks who believe that they know it, let's see if they will be able to give us the correct answer. Once again, before I remove it, how many sub 44 seconds Kirani James has recorded in the 400 meters? And give 3 of these recorded times. Waiting for the answer. Okay, let's see if Glenn is ready for us. Glenn, good afternoon.
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
I'm fine, and nice to see you. Nice to hear from you. Let's hear what's on your mind.
Well, basically, I was following my good friend Andy Gaskin, and if I didn't do it before, I want to wish him happy belated birthday. And I think there are many clubs that need to follow the lead that Rangers is taking, in that they get a mandate to really handle what I dub as a group of fellas going to play football.
Right, as you say, a group of, and as we indicated, this is the way that we want to encourage more clubs and proper club structure. And you made mention of that many more clubs should take the lead, including Combined Northerners, my past club.
Yes.
So
Well,
what's your current club?
Well, I'm saying past club, meaning as being an active player.
Oh, okay, right,
While,
yeah.
while while I assist administratively, I think much to be desired with combined northerners. And as I've mentioned previously on your program, Mike, the Northeast is a big area, and I think our club should be far better in its status as it is at the moment.
Right. And you're not looking just for football, as you say. You want a proper club structure that you can have a football team as part of the club, a netball team, a basketball team, a cricket team, a club as itself.
And not only that, too, Mike. And as Andy spoke, he has been a youth officer, which caters for the social needs of our players. Back then, while the community supported club and its club activities, I think more and more the issue of education, the issue of the social needs of our members and so need to be taken care of. Even to run a little retreat, I have an educational component of the club. Not focusing on sports only, but to cater for the all-round development of the individual.
Okay, well, it's always good to hear that. But it's always a challenge, and we probably see few proper clubs functioning in Grenada. Few of what we know of. They might have a proper club structure. Again, might be just with a football team. I understand Paradise is one with a proper club. I think Hurricane, by its name, Hurricane Sports Club. I think they had moved away from the football, whatever it is, and it's now a sports club, from what I understood. And by the way, our program in the new year will be looking at a lot of these club structures, identifying them and speaking to the folks. But let's look at GFA, for example, in the Premier League, just the Premier League. And what we have is just teams.
A
If
group
you
of a group of players.
right, a group of players, play. Because when you go to a council meeting, for example, is either a player or a coach that actually representing them at the council meeting. So
Oh
there
yes.
isn't this proper, you know, um, reporting and having meetings and discussing probably even before they go to a GFA meeting. So they may have an agenda
Yes.
and they will not discuss it with their members before going to hear from the members what are their concerns, what is their take on on a particular issue. But they go to the meeting, to the GFA council meeting, and they speak as if they
On,
are representing
on behalf of
their
them.
members. Yeah, they for themselves, and that's the concern. Now, if you have a proper club structure, your duty is at least to inform your members. Here, we have a meeting on the 20th. Here is on the agenda for the GFA council meeting. This is our position, or this is what the position we should take, etc. You have consensus, and you go to the meeting, and therefore you represent it. And in
Yeah.
return, following the meeting, you report back to your,
Right.
yeah,
Mike, I'm saying putting all the GFA politics apart aside. I know growing up as a footballer, we had to raise funds and seek sponsorship and the likes to really get to play, to have an encounter. Now the structure is where clubs get thousands of dollars, and they're not in a position, in my view, to utilize it in a positive. I mean, to utilize it, one, having accounts and that kind of thing, and to really use it in a way to really support um what it's set out to do. I think many clubs might just be missing this because of the lack of an organized structure. And I'm making an appeal out there, Mike, for more and more persons who have that sort of administrative ability to really come forward and help clubs. Because I know the GFA in recent times they had a series of workshops to see how they can help clubs. But when you look at it, it's much to be desired in terms of they organize. It might just be one or two of the same person, or person not showing up at all to these workshops. And so as we go into a new year, I hope it would not be as 2020, but lots of football being played. But again, it's the same persons and players who are overworked over and over again. And I believe with structures can really help to bring out the best in individuals and communities.
yeah. Well, really hope so. And Glenn, while you're on that, probably we can look forward to 2021. I know I spoke to you earlier in the year, but what it is we can look forward to in the Northeast regarding sports in 2021.
Well, as we realize, more football is being played by the FA, um, more competitions, and basically, I think bringing that inter-village competition back to the Northeast is critical. Additionally, for Northerners, and I could say by extension, I believe the clubs in the Northeast needs to once again um, once we move away from COVID to really go go into the schools and have these, adopt these schools and have the foundation being laid for the Northeast. You have Bolo, you have Vendom, you have Constantine as it relates to primary school, and you have Boca. The majority of students who attend these schools are from the Northeast, and I think it's a nice breeding ground for us. We have many students who play for other clubs who are Northeast based, but because there is no organized structure in the Northeast, these clubs do not get to capitalize on same. I am thinking Northerners will be celebrating 34 years um, as an organization, and I really, is it 34? 31. I am really thinking that it's time for us to make our mark again, do a walk through the community and get the support of the business personnel, and take advantage of all the young men and women who are within the length and breadth of the northeast of St. George.
Okay, then. Well, thank you very much, Glenn. I really want to thank you for being part of the program and wish you and your family all the best for Christmas and for the new year 2021.
Thank you, Mike, and same to you. And I can send up a few bottles of sunshine for you. I noticed the weather doing a right thing for you there.
All right. I appreciate it, Glenn. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
Okay, then. Okay, so that's Glenn Alexander. Glenn has always been part of the program over the year. Oh, well, over the past few months, I should say. But that's so from Andy to Glenn. Let's go over to, well, let's stay here in New York and say good afternoon to the big one, Harold Pisony.
Good afternoon, Mike. How are you? Are you hearing me good?
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear, Harold.
All right. Compliments of the season.
And happy returns, Harold. And well, it's nice seeing you, nice hearing from you. And we have quite a lot to talk about because I know you haven't been mixing you yourself and Lincoln Tour Deputy and others. I know you have been going back and forth, it's especially West Indies cricket. But before we go on to that, Harold, I don't know if you heard Andy Gaskin speaking about the Queen's Park Rangers issue earlier. I mean, Harold, you yourself was one who in the days would walk from home to Queen's Park to even see Queen's Park Rangers play. I mean, hearing what's going on now with Queen's Park Rangers as a club, don't you think it's frightening, Harold?
Oh, very much so. But it's indicative of what's happening to club sports across the Caribbean, as a matter of fact. These days, club sports seems to be a relic of the past. Queen's Park Rangers, with such a rich legacy, to be in the position as it is now, it's really mind-boggling. And River Road, of all places, I mean, historically, River Road has been a close-knit community, fanatically, and may I repeat, fanatically supporting whether it's football or netball. And and every time I see Queen's Park Rangers, every time I think of Queen's Park Rangers playing a football game, I see the fanatic support of the Alexander sisters, the Zagada sisters.
Yes.
Eves, that's Chinny
Yes, yes. And then you have the late.
Don't forget your mother.
Right, and you have the late Daisy, and
right,
I mean,
exactly. And it's been, and it was a real community effort that bombarded Queen's Park and wherever they played to support their team. And it was much more than just a football game. It was you actually felt that because of the stigmatizing of River Road, you lived there, and you know what I'm speaking about. They always felt they had something to prove to all and sundry, right? That they have something of worth they can be proud of as a people. And that manifestation came through Queen's Park Rangers because they were very passionate about how their footballers and netballers were treated by supporters of other teams, by administrations from the powers that be. So there was that fanatical support coming from the River Roadians because they had that deep structure in place. To hear now that that players are defecting from Queen's Park Rangers and not only following Patty Modeste, but going to other clubs maybe because they're not satisfied with the way things are going in the club. This is a sad story. Not River Road. No, not River Road. Of all places, not River Road. No, 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 no. I was very disheartened to hear such. But I hope that some sanity will prevail, and that legacy of Queens Park Rangers will continue, because sports in Grenada need clubs and teams like Queens Park Rangers in the forefront. Teams that have legacy, teams that have a track record, need to continue to be at the forefront of sports in Grenada. And I hope that there can be some reconciliation, and that things will, come back into fruition for the smooth running of Queens Park Rangers. But that legacy is way too rich for it to fall apart. And is it Rado is the president? Is it Rado Griffith or Bumpy? Which one?
Bumpy.
Bumpy is or Bumpy Griffith. I mean, come on. I mean, the Griffiths are one of the bedrocks of sports in the River Road community. They have a rich legacy within themselves as a family.
Yeah.
And Bumpy understands everything that I am talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that he, before he goes to bed at night, he's thinking of salvaging Queens Park Rangers for all that it's worth, to ensure that there's continuity and survivability in Queens Park Rangers, because this is not a good situation at all. And I know that many of the former players who have made a great impression, who are domiciled here in North America, who may be in Europe, hearing a story like this might almost come to tears, because this is not something at all that one envisioned would happen to a team or a club like Queens Park Rangers. Even though the club structure has been weak, unfortunately, but the fact that you're saying that people are defecting from the team structure, and that puts the ability of Queens Park Rangers to field a respectable 11 on a field of play for football, no, this cannot be happening. Not Queens Park Rangers, not River Road, not at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're correct, because you had, as I said, Anthony Modeste, even though he had moved between Queens Park Rangers and GBSS in terms of coaching and things like that. But if there was a proper club structure, then there was no way the Modeste, Anthony, and now Patrick Modeste, that's Patty Modeste, they are now at FC Camahon. There are other players who are speaking about, if things are not straightened out for the end of the year.
The Modeste too, they come from a strong family, because they are the nephews of Alistair Telesford,
right,
striker from Atoms, and Grenada. So they have a legacy there in themselves.
Yeah, certainly. But we're hoping, as you say, hoping for sanity. But Harold, I know we may come back.
Before we go on to that too, the fact that Glenn and Anderson mentioned football in the Northeast.
Yeah.
It brought back some great memories of Tempe All Blacks versus Van Damme. I don't know, and I would like to ask, maybe Glenn will answer that question, but I do not know if that excitement and that intensity that All Blacks and Van Damme brought when they played each other in Van Damme, if that intensity has ever been shown in football in Northeast since that era. Because I'm telling you, it was an absolute picture of support from both communities. From end to end of that Van Damme field, you had folks there fanatically supporting their teams. And boy, I can tell you, that rivalry was stupendous. It was great. It was good. I mean, sometimes you played football in actual mud. There was more mud than grass sometimes in Van Damme. But who cared? It was knee and shins and hands and heads against each other on that Van Damme playing field. And in those days, it was not regraded as it is right now. There would be stones on the field, sometimes a little gravel here and there. It was rough. It was rough in those days on that field, but that didn't matter. It was the rivalry. So I'm asking if that kind of excitement has ever been felt since the rivalry of Tempe All Blacks and Van Damme Marvelites. in those days in Northeast football. Those were
And
golden days.
And it brought out the communities, right?
Oh, absolutely. I remember, I mean, when we had to play in Van Damme, and we have to play Van Damme that day, Neil Truck, bless his soul, he's no
right,
more.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Neil Vivek, he had his truck there by the Coke factory.
Yeah.
And everyone jumps on that. I don't know how everybody got on that truck, because that truck, I'm sure, held more that was legally right. But he had that truck there, and the team and the supporters got on there, and there was a bus here and there now and then, and some of the folks who used their personal cars, some even walked to Van Damme, bomb a ride, as they say, to and from Van Damme, to be a part of that. So it was a real community effort. But times have changed.
Yeah, indeed. Let me just get a comment there. Toro is saying there ought to be a balance between competitions and training. There are more football competitions, but there seems to be less training by players. To be good on competition day in any sport, you have to put in a whole lot of training. Whether you are Messi or Junior League player, whether you are Mike Tyson or Fingers. And okay, and Glenn said Harold Paisini never saw this in recent times, referring to your that sort of rivalry between the communities. Harold, a touching issue for you in particular. We may come back to football and other sports, but let's try to get in your beef there with cricket. I know it might be some sleepless nights. I was even appalled. Well, I should say appalled. Last night, well, early this morning, I should say. I thought it was.
You thought Australia was playing West Indies, eh?
Well, yeah, and I thought it was I alone that was watching, and then I saw Ray Roberts was coming, and and I was like, wait, yeah, but when you look at that, Harold, I'm still saying I have a little faith in the West Indies after I saw what happened to India last night, But on a serious note, Harold, it hasn't been a good outing for the West Indies, despite the conditions, despite the circumstances. And I know you have been, even though you might be expressing some, disappointment, I know you are a West Indies fan. You're West Indies to the bone, as you will say. But let's look at West Indies in 2020, especially the post-COVID, the England series and then New Zealand series, Harold. How would you summarize it?
Before I start, let me just say that when you hear me feeling so hurt and disheartened by the performance of the West Indies team, it's all because of the love for that rich legacy. Listen, all my life, and I'm not speaking of myself, because lots of other folks in the West Indies can say the same story. All my life in growing up, you were attuned to West Indies team. You felt proud. I mean, that legacy, that richness of beating everybody was part of your DNA. And for the true lovers of cricket, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, I, like a lot of folks, followed cricket from the grassroots level. I took pleasure in going up to one of the fields and sitting down on a big stone just to see a good cricket game. That's what true cricket lovers do. And your support for the West Indies is a derivative of your support from the grassroots and seeing players develop and what have you. But that being it, what I am seeing from this West Indies team, it's really abominable. There's no heart. I question whether these players are even fit to play the cricket at that level. Our structure is bad in West Indies cricket. I was just speaking to a friend earlier on today, and I was telling him that I feel so strongly that the cricket West Indies have to really, really pull this West Indies cricket by the horn. And that all cricket that's played in the cricketing territories of the West Indies, every single island, there must be a uniformed structure of each competition. In other words, if you have someone from Jamaica, say an 18-year-old from Jamaica and an 18-year-old from Grenada, both making West Indies team at the same time, their experience of playing cricket must be similar. In other words, they would come through a system of 4-day cricket, T20 cricket, 50 overs cricket. And they all will be trained to play every form of the game so that everybody will be on the same page. Playing two-day cricket to prepare players to play test cricket is an exercise in futility. That can't work. You have players who are on the West Indies team, who are making the team for a first time, making 30s and 40s and 50s and a century every 15 or 20 games, never batted for an entire day, don't know what it is to sweat in the hot sun to bat to save a game, and yet you expect them to compete at the highest level? That's the reason we are where we are. And guess, we are in the pits, in the doldrums, in all formats of the game. At one time, there were some who were clamoring for, oh, let's forget Test cricket and play only T20 cricket. Well, we're not even playing T20 cricket. Because we had what, number 8, 7, 8? Test cricket 9?
Somebody down.
Right?
Somebody down
All of the cricket, the positions that we are in all of the formats are indicative of where our cricket is at. And unless we cannot have cricketers from 10, 11, 12, 13 years playing 4-day cricket, T20 cricket, 50-over cricket, well coached, we will be in the position that we are in. Bringing in coaches with names, bringing in players with big names to be coaches, to be administrators, cannot save West Indies cricket. The beginning of the saving of West Indies cricket has to start with the structure of the game and how we play the games competition-wise across all age groups in the West Indies. This 2-day cricket and sometimes a little 3-day cricket ain't cutting it. It just ain't cutting it. And even at the T20 levels, we are not producing cricketers who are match winners. You see? At the 50-over level, it's the same thing. And that's why, you have to ask yourself, why is West Indies in the doldrums in all formats of the game and have been for the past 15, 20 years? It's because of the way our cricket is structured across the West Indies. I am convinced it's not about coaches, it's not about administrators. Well, administrators in the sense that they are responsible for, improving the structure of the game. But one would clamor is a question of funding and money. But I'll tell you this, if forever we're going to clamor that we do not have enough money to invest in the structure of the game, to improve the structure, the manner, and how we play cricket in preparation for all of the formats, we will always be in the pits as we are today. And may I repeat, I'm firmly of the belief that the way we can begin to bring West Indies cricket out of the rut is to restructure the formats of the game across the Caribbean. And I think there must be a uniformed structure where all cricket across the West Indies territories are played simultaneously, together, and in the same format. So we are producing cricketers of the same ilk across the West Indies to play for West Indies. So that when they make the team, you don't ask, have you ever played 4-day cricket? Have you ever batted for an entire day? Have you ever bowled and taken 10 wickets, in one game? Have you ever done that? Have you bowled to a batsman that spent most of the day batting and you had to strategize how to get him out? Have you done that as a bowler? These are the questions to be asked. And so we are recycling a set of underprepared players. And, I see sometimes I look on Facebook and, that's laughable. Yeah, some of these comments I see on Facebook, people arguing for players and drop this one and bring this other one. That can't help West Indies cricket. Drop in and change, because we have the same underprepared, underdeveloped cricketers that we just will keep recycling. The way it is right now, we have to live with what we have. They play, then they retire, and hope that with a change in the structure, those who come from the 12 and 13 age group moving up to 16, 17, and 18 would be of a different standard coming into a West Indies team. But the frontline cricketers we have right now, who they should drop this one, drop Hetty, drop Kemo Paul, drop Craig Braffett. Well, who are you bringing in? Who are you going to bring in? That's the point. And that's the state of West Indies cricket right now. While I understand some people may argue, there's maybe a point or two to argue for one or two players to be dropped. But the sad commentary of that argument will be, after you drop them, who you bring in and what you expect. You see, there's so many times you've seen talent here and talent there and ability here. Well, you know what? Everybody in this world have talent. Everybody have ability. You could see that in most people. But are the abilities harnessed? Are the abilities disciplined? Are the abilities well coached and developed? That is the issue that's surrounding West Indies cricket. And it's a sad state. Sometimes I sit and I watch and I get very emotional watching this West Indies team. I saw New Zealand coming out to field. I think it was the second innings of the last Test match. I looked at the New Zealand team on the field, the way they were bouncing around, looking sharp.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about touching the ball. They were bouncing around and looking sharp, and without even touching the ball yet, and they're on the field. Eh? You look at the West Indies, lethargic. They just keep walking around. I mean, it's like they're just going around in circles. It's just sad. It's just a sad picture looking at the guys. It's just sad. It's just sad, and you can understand why you get the performances, because they're just not ready for this kind of international cricket. We're not ready. Everybody is playing a mind game that's outwitting us over and over and over again. You know, Jermaine Blackwood, I hate to even call names, because calling names, you try to chastise one person, but the problem is not only him alone. But for example, you see Jermaine Blackwood, the way he plays, flashing player, he may hit the ball, make a century, but he is a prime candidate for being caught in first, second, or third slip, or mid-off cover, extra cover, because of the way he plays with that bat so far outside the off stump that any good bowler who's moving that ball from middle to off, just between middle and off, and just swinging a little towards the slip area, will always get him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a recycling of the same mistakes over and over and over again. I mean, I look at Kemo Paul. Kemo Paul, I thought he was a player with some promise, looking respectable. Not that I expected him to be a mind blower, mind boggler on the field of play. But I look at him playing the other day, and as he was bowling, he got hit first ball, second ball, and he was just turning his arm coming up to bowl. There is no effort to do anything different. He was dropping the ball in the same spot, enticing the batsman to hit him over mid-off, mid-on, and you see nothing from him that gives you the impression that he was trying to change it up. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? Wow.
And what about John Campbell?
You see, that's another thing. I don't want to get into talking about these guys so much, because every single one of them needs to be chastised. I may talk about John Campbell, how he's been given a long run. He's a lucky player, right, to be given such a long run, but he has not delivered and continue to fail, But then somebody may say, well, why are you harping on John Campbell? And that is true, because I can say the same for all of the other players. Look at the Roston Chase. The last series looked so promising. Now he looks, as a cricketer, totally out of sorts. His mind seemed to be gone. Looking at him on the field of play. So it's just arguing about who isn't playing and who should be dropped to pick who. It's a tiring process. It's tiring, because you're arguing for what? For what?
Mm-hmm. But the Harold, do you think that the academy, the talk of, well, we had it before, but an academy can solve such a problem in the short term?
Do we have academies in all islands of the cricket and playing islands in the Caribbean? when we have a cricket academy, how many players actually go through that cricket academy as compared to the total amount of players we have playing 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17-year-olds playing cricket? Is that, I mean, and that goes back to the point I'm making, that cricket in the Caribbean has to be a uniformed process. So you can't have some players having experience in an academy, but because you're from Grenada or because you're from St. Vincent, and the resources are not there, you may not have the opportunity to really experience being part of a cricketing academy. What goes on in that cricketing academy? That's another question. How much is the cricketing academy benefiting the total picture, the total development of West Indies cricket? The structure has to begin to change on the field of play. How we structure our cricket at all levels. It has to start there. That's the point I'm making. Windward Islands cricket, it's painful to begin with when you look at the structure of it. Then that's another problem. But then again, it's a West Indian problem. I just hopped on Windward Islands because that's where my heart is in terms of being parochial across the Caribbean. But it has to be uniformed, Michael. It has to be uniformed. Our cricket is in dire straits right now. Dire straits. I have lots of friends who are cricket fanatics that I grew up with in Grenada, whose life and heart and DNA was in cricket and West Indies cricket. These days, you tell them there's a test match playing, they ask you, where? A test match? Against who? Oh, by the way, a few years ago, I went to Antigua to look at the, what was it, an ODI? I think it was West Indies and South Africa. When I reached the airport and talking to the immigration officer, we were talking and I said, yeah, I'm here for the test match. He said, what test match? What test match? I said, no, what one-day cricket? I said, yeah, West Indies is playing on South Africa. He didn't even know that. Should I say more?
Well, it's interesting, Harold, because you mentioned the fact that we don't play that many well, 2 days seems to be the norm of cricket, especially in the Caribbean, and you've seen it in the context of a test match and whether or not West Indies can really last 4 or 5 days in a test match. But in addition to the point you were making in terms of West Indies and its ascendancy, and now what is descendancy, you will say, but West Indies now have to qualify for tournaments. I mean, gone are the days where West Indies is a show pick. When you talk about the top 4, the top 5, West Indies used to be in that. The others will have to qualify. Now West Indies has to qualify.
Some argue that the reason why West Indies is being tolerated across the world is because when you say West Indies, it sort of conjures up a certain amount of excitement because of a legacy. I mean, you're playing West Indies, they're Cavalier, they're from the Caribbean, they're playing their Calypso cricket, and maybe you're going to have a nice day of watching the boys play on the field. That's what's keeping it. But we are in the position of competing with Ireland and Holland and Bangladesh and what have you. That's where we at. Of the historical cricketing nations, we are at the bottom. We are maybe the only territory of cricket amongst the traditional playing countries that haven't progressed or improved really in the past 15, 20 years. That 20 World Cup that we won, if you ask me, I will say that was a fluke. You tell me why shouldn't I say that winning that T20 World Cup was a fluke? Because T20 cricket can give you a fluke every now and again, even though I'm not bashing it, because it takes still some worth and planning and skill to outwit your opponents still in 2020 cricket. But why do I feel that winning that T20 World Cup was a big fluke? Should I start with Carlos Brathwaite? Remember the name.
Remember.
After that, what?
Yes, we remember the name. um, yeah, we are remembering the name
But
Harold.
in spite of all of that, in
Uh,
spite of all of that, when the game is playing, I'm still excited to see the first ball being bowled. I don't know what it is. Something is wrong with me. I don't know. I don't know if I need psychotherapy or what.
well,
But I'm
as
super
a
excited. At least I make sure I check Cricket Info to see the time the game is starting, and I'm making sure I'm in front of the telly to see the first ball being bowled. I get excited when I see the cricketers coming on the steps with their whites coming onto the field, and then half an hour after that, I'm like, oh Lord, poof.
it's like
Yeah,
Toro keep telling us that it's
yeah,
time
I
for
know
us.
Toro. Yeah,
Yeah, time for us to support the
I
New
know
York Rangers.
Toro has given up. Toro has given up. Like my friend
Yes, yes, yes. Um,
Toro, Toro, I can't help myself, and I'm like somebody. It's like West Indies cricket is like you're a parent and you have a child on drugs. You see the disintegration, you see the hopelessness, but you still hold on with the love because you some glimmer inside, something inside of you is hoping that one day that child will redeem him or herself. As a parent, maybe that's how I feel about West Indies cricket.
yeah. All right. Well, let me see. I think I have Robertson Henry is from St. Lucia, but he's joining us over from St. Vincent. Robertson, you hear me?
Yes, good afternoon, Mike. I'm hearing you. Are
Right.
you hearing me?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear. I also have Harold Paisady, who is actually from Grenada, but is here in New York.
Okay.
And
So it's a Grenada connection. How are you doing, Harold?
Oh, not bad at all, Robertson. Nice seeing you. I spent some good times in Oh, you're from St. Lucia?
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I
That's
spent
good.
some good
That's
times
good.
doing commentaries at Mindu Phillip Park.
Philip Park.
Yeah,
Okay.
cricket and football. Those were good
Mm,
days.
these were the days.
Yeah.
so Robinson, we were talking about about Harold in particular was talking about the rules of West Indies and West Indies cricket as it is now, and looking back primarily at the Test series. I'm certain that you yourself is one who has been following West Indies cricket. You have been posting a lot as well, and not just West Indies cricket, although also Windward Islands cricket. You have been following Windward Islands cricket throughout the islands, traveling with some of the teams, even the youth cricketers. What are your concerns regarding the West Indies and West Indies cricket and performances?
Good afternoon, Harold. And good afternoon, Mike. Like all of us, it is painful having to endure not just the losses, but the manner. And I think, subject to correction, I think we began shooting ourselves in the foot from the 70s. If I recall, well, Tony Cozier is dead, but one of the very first moves to reduce the number of bouncers per over came from the West Indies Cricket Umpires Association in 1974 to the ICC. Well, it was then, I think, the MCC. Added to that, if you look at the way we prepare our players, it is like we use the same approach as we would handle a 2 month old baby uh, and to prepare our players. Mike, Harold, you all maybe would have probably played the game and been around. Going to any ground in Grenada or in the Caribbean, whether it was just a knock on an afternoon or it was a make believe test match, it would be competitive. And our players grew up with a mindset of being competitive, of not giving up, of having to bat under pressure, to bowl under pressure. In St. Lucia, would go to the Marshall grounds or Mindo Phillip Park or any of the grounds around the country. We played softball two ways, underarm and overarm. And even underarm, it, the leading batsman around would come and knock because it was not easy. You'd have six men around the bat. You'd have guys giving you all kind of chats to get to throw you off your game. But now if you look at what is happening, you have guys training batsmen, they throwing the ball onto the bat, you know, guys guys going to play table cricket with pads, you know, not learning to play that ball straight, you know, and it is just a, a cultural change, gentlemen, that have removed that foundation we have had over the years that made us what we were. And a third point is the coaching. We have adopted, and I'm not being racist, but for want of a better phrase, I'm putting it boldly. We have adopted the white man's way of playing cricket, and they in turn have adopted the West Indian way of playing cricket. And I've been handing our heads to us for over 20 years. I'm not even looking at the administrators now. I'm looking at what we are doing in the islands. What is our philosophy? Our coaching philosophy is no longer ours. Our bowlers do not have that latent strength from growing up over the years. Gentlemen, you all knew growing up, running to fetch water at the standpipe, carrying stuff, doing this. So you grew up doing work that build your muscles, that develop your muscles. How many of our young bowlers now can give you 15 overs on the trot? Since Shiv Chandapal and Brian Lara, how many of our young batsmen can consistently bat for you for 6 hours in a day in training? So we need to go back. It may take 5 or 10 years, but we need from the club level in the villages, the national level, we need to go back to how we used to play our cricket. If we are to return anything resembling the glory days. I don't know if I have really answered your question, Mike, but
Mhm.
um, it is just painful. You look at our bowlers. Our batsmen are looking at our bowlers as what? What you'll have. Our bowlers do not have the fear factor in them. And I will say this: people may fault Tino Best, but Tino Best is one of the fast bowlers in recent times who worked at physical fitness. And I think if we bring Tino and Fidel Edwards now against the present crop of fast bowlers, they will make our present crop of fast bowlers look like preschoolers. Our present crop of fast bowlers do not have that killer instinct.
Mhm.
I mean, Gabriel should be making batsmen hop instead of, but we are now on the receiving end. Our batsmen can no longer play the short ball.
Mhm.
I mean, there are a number of things, gentlemen, we could just go on. The litany is
All right.
there. But in
Yeah.
a
But,
nutshell, we need to
but let
go
me
back
bring
to what.
in Harold. Harold, I'm laughing at what Robertson said about, well, the fast bowlers in particular. Gone are the days when the batsmen were afraid of our bowlers. It seems now that, as Robertson is saying, it's probably the other way around now.
Because how much quality fast bowling has these batsmen faced in their developmental stages?
You have it there, Harold. And I'm
Listen,
going
if
back
you
because
don't play quality bowling, you would not be prepared to play such when you reach at the test level.
Mhm.
Listen, you
Harold,
mentioned
I will use an example. Two examples. One, in St. Lucia, we used to have a softball competition. The pitch would be shortened to 18 yards. You had to turn your arm, no pelting. And it was 50 overs. Imagine you playing a softball competition, 50 overs per inning. And you had to learn to pull that softball because men are waiting for that catch. Backward square leg, mid wicket. And guys, you're talking about batsmen who were playing with the Windward Islands, would play that competition because what they told you it hurt them. to keep that ball down. Then you had another aspect going to the field, as I mentioned earlier, even on the concrete court. Ignatius Kade, you all should remember Ignatius Kade.
Yeah.
Ignatius Kade would only have his box and his wicket keeping gloves up to the wicket against the fastest bowlers St. Lucia had on the concrete. And we would be playing on the concrete with a plastic ball, no pads. You get hit, plus would watch you and tell you you have a bat in your hand. Learn to play the ball with your bat. I mean, the last, I didn't want to even mention it, but I am forced to. If we look at the last test match against New Zealand, the way our batsmen got out leg before, playing around the pad instead of playing that ball straight. They either played too late or too early, playing around it instead of playing that ball straight. And that comes with our batsmen being placed
And we
in
dropped how
a
many catches? What, 6 catches?
mindset of comfort.
We dropped
And
what?
then when they go out there,
I'm saying we dropped what, 6 catches?
well,
How many?
7,
Oh,
7 catches,
Yeah.
7,
It's mind-boggling.
7 catches,
So Harold, the issue is a fundamental
7 catches.
issue in terms of the development
It's
of
the
our players.
structure of a
Yeah,
cricket.
we need to go back.
Yes, the structure of a cricket has to be revamped. It has to be revamped because all this talk about fire this coach and bring another coach, fire the president, bring in another president, all that is old talk. That is old talk. Listen, any good coach right now, any good cricketing coach in the world today would have his image tarnished if he's appointed to coach West Indies. I can bet that. Because I do not believe any coach, no matter where you are and what reputation you have as a coach, can turn the fortunes of West Indies cricket. Because
I agree with you,
you come in to coach a band of players who are underprepared, underdeveloped, and are now in a mindset of losing. It's impossible. So all this coach and some say drop, get rid of Simmons, bring Desmond Haynes. Some say get rid of Skerritt, bring what? Clive Lloyd, and all of this hula balula talk. That ain't saying West Indies cricket.
Yeah, I agree with you. We need a radical change. I mean, Harold, Mike, the three of us involved in the media, one way or another, for so many years, and we have looked at ways and means of producing that product in our own little way, but with an approach to marketing the Caribbean, whether Mike um, is looking at Grenada first and foremost, and then the wider Caribbean. I am looking at the OECS first and foremost, and the wider Caribbean. But we are looking at sports, marketing of sports. And our cricket, has not, and I'm being serious, I may be wrong, has not been given that kick up the butt to change it around. Because to do so, it would be like you have to take a sledgehammer to two kneecaps. Some persons may have to go. Mindsets have to change. And I mean, what is our coaching philosophy in the Caribbean? We can no longer lay claim to being Calypso cricketers. We do not have that flair. We do not have that mindset. We need to go back to what it was. And I, to a certain extent, agree with the past players because it is hurtful when you sit and you listen to them and they speak of the pride of representing West Indies cricket. When I go to Queen's Park in Trinidad and I ask the 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 ground staff. What was Lara doing? What was his approach? They told me even before he was selected for the West Indies team, he would come to Queen's Park and begin knocking, and an hour later stop, take a drink, and continue knocking. Like he was preparing himself for international cricket. We have talent. We have talent in the Caribbean. I mean, I've been fortunate to have covered cricket in a number of Caribbean countries and other sporting events. And the depth of talent we have is mind-boggling. But we need one, parents to get serious and look at sports as a profession, as an avenue for socio-economic development on a personal level, on a family level, on a village level, on a community level, on an island level. Then we need to look at cricket as not just a unifying force for Caribbean people, but the avenue for which we make a statement, an avenue for which we gain global pride. We no longer have that kind of pride. We need to get it back. Our administrators need to decide if they are ready to take up that challenge. And if they are not, they should step down. We need radical thinkers, people who are prepared to think outside the box. We need that. And sad to say, people like the three of us, well, Mike knows that I speak my mind, and sometimes, like you tell me, I tend to kind of go overboard with my statements. But I like laying it out clear. There are no time for niceties. You cannot go into a battle with a catapult nowadays. You either go in with an AR-15 or an M16. Cannot I mean, Mike is up in you know what the policemen are not going up against criminals with high powered weaponry. You going with what, a pop gun? We now in the Caribbean playing test cricket and 50 over cricket, you know, with powder puff ammunition. We do not have the heavy artillery.
All right, Robbie, just hold there. Harold, before you chime in, Harold, let me just read a comment there from Toro. Somewhat disagree, brother Henry. Pace and killer instinct alone wouldn't make our bowlers successful. The mental part of knowing what to bowl and when to bowl a particular ball are also important. When to bowl a Yorker and when to bowl a bouncer. Holden, Marshall, Roberts, and these fellas were successful not just because they were fast, but because they were smart bowlers. Harold, you want to chime in?
Well, there's nothing much more to say about that. That's absolutely correct. So, I mean, when you hear Holden speaking about bowling against, I think it was Syed Kurmani way back when playing against India, and when there was a drinks break, and he took a quick walk. He said Andy Roberts was injured in that game, and then Roberts called him aside and said, "Listen, you gotta aim that ball between middle and leg. If he's weak, bowl him there, and you will get him." And Holden went back and did just that, and got Syed Kurmani. I mean, this is cricket of the mind, and that's what we don't have today. That's what everybody is beating us with. Cricket of the mind. Losing by an innings in consecutive test matches tells me that your mind game is totally gone. It's gone. And that is one of the big differences in our cricket. Everybody is working us out, and we're not learning. We are just making the same mistakes over and over again.
Let me see if I can get another. There's another comment there from someone saying, when West Indies were in the heyday, our players were regulars on the county circuit in England. the restrictions imposed by England limiting the number of overseas players go hand in hand with the demise of West Indies cricket.
That brings me back to a point that Clive Lloyd made in the late 70s when Clive Lloyd said, and I remember that comment vividly, that it is time now that we have to think about setting up our own academies of cricket across the Caribbean to ensure that the nucleus of our players are well nurtured and well prepared for cricket at the international level, because nothing lasts forever. I remember Clive Lloyd saying such in the 70s very, very vividly. And he's so right.
Can I come in, Mike?
Yeah, so the writing was always on the wall.
Yes, it was. And the previous statement you read, I agree with the writer. But Roberts, Holding, and all those bowlers acquired that ability of constant practice, going to the beach and bowl, just bowling. So they develop, one, the ability to bowl for long periods of time. Two, being able to outthink a batsman. And three, providing supporting role to the other bowlers. That comment about England, I no longer see this as an excuse because we knew it was coming. But what did we do? In the absence of academies, how did we prepare our coaches? Look at how many of our coaches are level 3 and level 2. What are they producing? And I'm saying it, if we utilize the resources that are available to us, and some of the best coaches, mind you, are not certified. Some of the best coaches are not certified. But that resource is not being tapped into because, one, those persons are either too radical or their way of thinking is not that nice boy. We need to use our resources now. And I will tell you this, Mike, when was the last time the West Indies had, or a representative West Indies team was truly fit and battle ready? When was the last time? Remember the Stanford Superstars?
Stanford Super. Yeah, I remember the Super. Yeah.
That was the last time.
The $1 million crop of players, was it?
Yes, but remember, if you go back and do research on who was preparing them, how they were drilled, and you look at what is happening now, it is totally different. Our players are not fit, and when you are fit, you can take up a challenge. But our players are not fit. So, gentlemen, sad to say that some of the people who should be on a program like this are not there because whatever they would have to say would have to be vanished over. They're not here.
But in going forward, both Harold and Robbie, and lots of cricket to be played in the future. Qualifying matches, qualifying tournaments, I should say. World Cup tournaments, well, providing that West Indies qualify, and then we have Bangladesh in the next few weeks because I think it's early, is in January, I think the series.
Yeah.
So in the next few weeks we should have a Bangladesh series,
And Australia should be touring the Caribbean also.
Well, yeah, so quite a number of but the concern will be that based on what you guys are identifying, it seems as if we'll be still in a position where we're recycling the same players and hoping for probably a better result.
Well, I'll let Robert Stevens tackle this one, because as for me, I don't say what I have to say. What I don't say already, I can't say no more. Because my attitude is a simple one, and I mentioned it before, and there's nothing more to say. I can't say anymore. That's where we at.
Yep.
If it ain't fixed, we're just gonna say where we are.
My,
Michael, 15, 20 years now. 15, 20 years. Oh Lord. I can't say no more. What is there more to say?
Robbie?
I will make a suggestion to the West Indies board. Pick your 8 leading young fast bowlers, and remember, Mike and Harold, once the West Indies won the Youth World Cup, they were number young fast bowlers. And I told a friend, we should take those young fast bowlers and send them to a country to work for 3 months in terms of their training, weight training, their nutrition, bowling, looking at from about 8 in the morning till 6. That was the same time period that the 2 coaches, the Guyanese coach, he's now in chairman of selectors,
Roger
Harper and Eldin Baptiste, coach the Stanford Superstars. Bus would leave the hotel at about 7 in the morning and return at about 7 in the night. If we go back and we use such an approach, we look at our top 5 opening bats, we look at maybe our top 8 middle order batsmen, top 3 wicket keepers, our leading 8 young fast bowlers, and we work with them for the next 3 months. And while we're working with that group of players, we look at changing our coaching philosophy. Because what is being produced at the island level, they're not ready for international cricket. Players getting into the West Indies team with averages of 32. Players playing 2-3 first-class matches and believe they're ready for international cricket. No. And I'm saying this, use that crop of players to prepare them for Bangladesh and Australia. I'm not even looking at Bangladesh so much, but Australia. That will give us enough time. That would be probably the defining moment. And with the COVID-19 protocols, how do we prepare our players mentally from one bubble to the other? So,
while you're speaking there, some interesting comments coming in there, and I want to read them because I want Harold to stay on too to hear those. Okay. Well, Andre Fletcher, who is actually in Australia, is actually saying that what Robertson is saying is true regarding we used to train twice a day in the Sanford, 2 nutritionists, and we break for lunch, train again, gym in the morning, and sometimes leave at 9 o'clock in the evening, 9 p.m. I want to go back to some comments there because while you were speaking, there was some, Toro came in with one that the confidence of West Indies cricketers is completely shattered. Without confidence in yourself as a sportsman or sportswoman, you ain't beating anybody. A good place to start is for Cricket West Indies and the fans to admit that our cricket has gone through and spend some time off the ICC circuit while we try to prepare a future generation of players that will be ready to compete mentally and physically with the world's best. Toro, I don't think that will go on. That will go down well with Harold. He still wants to see his boys playing. He still wants to get up in the night. He still wants to turn on the TV to see the guys playing. He cannot just watch Australia, New Zealand, and and England. He wants to see the guys play. So off the circuit, that's too much a torture. Another comment is coming from Cleve Deputy is saying cricket is a science and no longer a saga boy sport. Players chatted on slate back then, together with the natural skills and abilities of players, made them invincible. Today, it's graphs and charts and velocity, rhythm, and consistency with steel focus. We don't have the patience for that type of discipline, sadly so. And another one is saying, apart from Al Grover Cricket School to an extent, what academies did Holden, Marshall, Roberts, Lara, Shandapal, Gibbs, et al. Attended? Playing regularly on the county circuit in England, honed the skills amongst top-class international cricketers.
So if any country that's playing any sport produces a world-class player every 10, 15 years, is not succeeding in the development of the sport. Simple. So what happened with Lara and Chandapal and Chris Gale? Since then, what? We hoping that we'll get another player in the next 5 years that's going to be a world beater and we're going to jump up and say, hail, hail, hail. No, that's not development. You see, because we cannot win at all times. But I firmly believe that because of a rich legacy, that West Indies should be at least in the top 3 in all formats of the game. I cannot accept anything less. I'm sorry.
Harold, at the New York Rangers playing the Toronto Maple Leafs in an NHL warm-up match tonight. You can watch the game. It's excitement galore.
Right? I do look at horse racing. I look at my little boxing with this guy from England. So that is another story altogether, because since Mike Tyson, boxing has really taken a nosedive at that level, and I'm from the Muhammad Ali era, but that's another story. Oh God, no, but the Rangers and all of that, Toro, I can't handle that one. I'm sorry. I can't handle that one at all. I mean, come on. Yeah, at least you should tell me, think about Karanaj playing NJM in Tanteen football. Yeah, I mean, that's a better thought at least, but it's only a thought. Anyway, we could put our entire program talking about Old Trafford football.
Yeah, I know.
Don't go there. Yes, gentlemen. Harold brought up something. I do not know. I don't know if you recall, Mike. Some time ago in the WhatsApp chat group, I dropped a copy of a paper I wrote way back in 1988. I can resend you a copy. And sadly, some of the issues I wrote about in that paper in 1988 are not only applicable today, but many of our coaches have lost sight of that. And quickly, just with your permission, Mike, Harold mentioned boxing. As he mentioned boxing, a good friend of ours just came to mind, Trevor Twaits. He's serious, and I miss him. But what I miss in boxing is the excitement that Mike Tyson brought. And even in that exhibition fight against Roy Jones Jr., Tyson demonstrated that irrespective of the sporting discipline, once you have that hunger, you master the basics. Yes, you may lose some speed, but the class will always be permanent. And there are lessons in that Mike Tyson Roy Jones Jr. exhibition site, preparation and everything, that many of our young sportsmen and women should look at today. The hard work, listening, making yourself a student of the game. Like Lara. Yes, Lara played in England, but Lara's success was the hours he spent practicing. Because if he did not spend all those years practicing, he would not become the player he was. And so Chandapur, and so Chris Gale, and sadly, Chandapur Lara and Chris Gale coming back into regional cricket will make a lot of those young bucks run and hide. Because I have seen footage of Lara playing in England and in Australia, and the class is there. So a few more hours on a bowling machine, those young fast bowlers will have to think twice to take on the Prince. And then you bring in Chandapur.
Yeah.
You know, maybe those old players should form a team and take on the current West Indies team, and probably the when they are beaten by the old men, quote unquote, then they would have a rethink about what they want to do. But sadly,
Yeah.
maybe they should begin throwing in the towel.
Okay. Robbie, while you were speaking there, some information just coming in, and the chat itself says that Romel Currency has been elected as the new president of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Cricket Association, Inc. Currency gained 36 votes, while Dougal James tallied 20 and Daniel Macmillan 10. This happened a few minutes ago at the association's AGM. Thank you, Rowan Thomas, for that information. So Romel Currency is the new president of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Cricket Association, Inc. Harold, you want to say something? All right.
Well, they have a constitution, and I guess when the time comes, they have to hold an election, and somebody has to be elected. So,
yeah. All right. Well, folks, just stand by here because I want to go all over to I think it's Melbourne, Australia, and welcome Andre Fletcher. Andre, you joining us live from Melbourne, Australia. I know it's very late. You're probably sleeping, but welcome.
Welcome, Mikey. Thanks. It's actually 6:42 in the morning.
Okay, well, you only for breakfast.
I'm in Tasmania at the moment.
Oh, Tasmania. Wow, that's well. Thanks for joining us. And you were listening to the part where Robbie was speaking about the training that you folks went through during the Sanford period there, and you remarked about the whole regime, the nutritionists, going early in the morning, breaking for the meals, and then returning not until 9 o'clock in the night.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know where he got the information from, but actually, he was spot on. As he mentioned, we had Roger Harper, Eldon Baptiste, and all the legends who played the game before. And trust me, it was intense. We had actually we trained twice a day. We would leave like 7 in the morning, gym, stay at the ground, practice, break for lunch, and train again. And if the training was a case where it wasn't as intense or of good quality, we would sometimes remain until 10 in the night. Yes, we were tired, but at the same time, it was a case where we were getting fit. We were all fitter because it showed in the game, even though it was one game. But I guess all the players who were involved, they would say that it was one of the best times that we ever had where fitness was concerned. Um, everything was well structured. I guess because of the money that has been invested in the camp. Yeah, we had two nutritionists. We couldn't eat anything that we wanted, so they made sure that we were well taken care of and stuff.
Well, It's good to hear that, and I'm certain, Harold, if Robbie, if there's anything you want to ask Andre, I mean,
Andre, hello, Andre. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks, Mr.
Yes. Um, so the scenario you just painted for us in Sanford, how different it is now in your preparation in playing for the West Indies?
Well, to be honest, there is a bit of difference in the sense where maybe training wise, well, we do train, but the twice a day at times, we don't really get that. Um, now West Indies is actually they banking a lot on fitness level, and they take that very seriously.
Because is it honest to say that previously the fitness levels were not stringently adhered to, and judging for what I have been seeing on the field of play, I have been convinced that lots of the players I'm looking at don't look fit to me. Am I correct in saying such?
I wouldn't agree. To be honest, the reason why I say so because to be selected for West Indies is not only about performance. You have to go through a fitness test where they call the yo-yo testing. So if you don't pass that test, for sure you wouldn't be selected for West
Or
Indies.
maybe I should say they appear to look like they're not fit.
Well, yeah. Well, then if you say so, then as I said, fitness is something that they take very serious, and I strongly believe that we, well, being a current player, we are fit, but is maybe more for us as players to do our own work and research. Even being here in Big Bash and the way things are structured at a club level, it's amazing. And I sometimes I ponder and ask myself, is it a case where we don't have the enough money in West Indies to have that structure? And me being an overseas player, I remember having to I had to fill out a form, a coaching form actually. So me being a player, filling out a coaching form, giving my thoughts on how certain things should be done at the grassroots level. So I guess maybe they taking feedbacks from every single player, every single overseas player, and actually applying it into their coaching programs here in Australia. It is something, maybe it could be a case where they are a touch ahead of us as West Indian cricketers.
Andre.
Question, Andre. You are personally, right? When you sit in your hotel room, by yourself, you think of a day's play, you think of West Indies cricket, you think of a game just played, because we have been losing so many times. When you sit and you think of that whole scenario, what's expected of you as a cricketer?
Yeah, for sure.
The
Well,
support you have. Hold on. The support that you have amongst people in the West Indies, not as much as you had before. Don't you at times feel disappointed in yourself as a player? Disappointed in West Indies cricket? Maybe disappointed that you were not developed as a player in a manner that's conducive towards winning games, and maybe that you came along in the incorrect time, and maybe you should have been there in the glory days of West Indies cricket? As to losing so many times and being, disheartened with yourself as a player, wanting to do better?
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. To be honest, sometimes when I feel I would come back into my room and ponder on it, and it sometimes get emotional because I know how it is as a even, well, from looking from outside when I wasn't on the team as well, and the way I feel, I know how the spectators, in the Caribbean and even other parts of the world, well, how they are feeling. So it's not a case where we as players we go out to lose. Yeah, I know a lot of people always hear that saying, but at the same time, we as players have to understand that there is so much people can take. I remember you mentioning yes, it has been 15 to 20 years, and it's still going on, but it's work in progress. Well, I wouldn't be there for the rest of my life, but at the same time, whatsoever that has been put in place, and what is, well, hoping that things that the current board is taking to help West Indies cricket, it can come into effect as early as possible, where we can get our cricket back up, and people respecting us as a cricketing nation.
And Mike, if you quickly,
Um,
question,
Mike,
Mike, Robertson, come back to Grenada cricket right now, cricket in Grenada. Give us a brief scenario of the development of cricket in Grenada. Are we playing two-day cricket at the first class level in preparation to make the Windward Islands team for another tournament? Is that correct?
Well, right now I will say Grenada cricket has been top, as well, from since Dwayne Gill came on board as president, and now he's the CEO of Windward Islands Cricket. He has been putting in a lot of work. More cricket has been played. I am not too sure, but maybe in the near future there might be a few cricket tournament coming up again in Grenada. So I know Dwayne is working very hard behind the scene to make sure that cricket um, is something that is all year round. And yeah, right now I would say Grenada is actually dominating Windward Islands cricket. When you look at the amount of players playing currently for Windwards, and it shows because of the work that Dwayne is putting in, and the hard work that we as players we don't have a choice than to continue doing what is set out to be done, because the only person doing is he's not that type of person that will stick for any foolishness. So we have to be on our A game.
um, Andre, Mike,
Yeah, you go ahead.
yeah, Andre, how are you? Long time I
I'm good,
haven't
thanks.
seen you, boy.
Yeah,
You
I'm good,
know,
thanks.
I will not say that, but you know, you cannot be around Andre and don't laugh. Um, I mean, Andre asked how I got my information. Well, I did do some work with Stanford, and there's things I know, and you just cannot speak up. And the reason why I did bring up the preparation of the Stanford superstar, because if anyone look at a video of that match, one of the players who always had a fitness problem, quote unquote, was Sawan. And the way Sawan would dive and run and feel, I mean, was just an example of the work put in by Harper and Eldin Baptiste. In fact, there were nicknames given to the two, which I will not repeat, but Andre knows those two nicknames. That was how tough they were. I do not want to put Andre on the spot, but Andre, if we adopt that same training modality of the Stanford superstars for, let's say, 3 months to a group of players, irrespective of age, West Indies players, what results do you think those players would produce playing against the very same teams that just beat them badly?
Yeah, it will make a big difference, Robert. But as I mentioned, maybe it could be a case where the board, maybe we don't have enough money. I'm assuming, because even though the Stanford team, we had 6 weeks of training, but as I said, it was high intense training, well structured. Having all the legends plus 2 to 3 coaches, 2 nutritionists. I think it was 2 managers and an assistant manager. So, and then we all was staying in a hotel where there wasn't any other guests. It was strictly only cricketers, no wives, no girlfriends, nothing. So it was a case where we didn't have a choice than to be as focused as possible and doing what we have to do and what was set for us to do. So it all boils down to maybe the funding. Maybe if more sponsors can come on board to help with that, then that for sure that will be a big benefit for us as West Indies cricketers.
But I think the resources, the human resources, is available here. I firmly believe that. It is just a matter of tapping into it. You mentioned Windward Islands cricket and what is happening. In St. Lucia, there are concerns, although there's changes to the hierarchy of the National Association, but we still playing 2-day cricket in the Windward Islands and looking to play 4-day cricket regionally. Harold did point that out. So we have some issues that the administrators must address. And I firmly believe that if we make this sacrifice, sponsors will come on board. Um, Mike and Harold would know that if you do not have a quality product to sell, then crop will smoke your pipe. We made some big mistakes in the past, and those mistakes are haunting us now. We have to look at preparing players to captain a team with many cultural backgrounds. You need a captain, for example, if you have Andre Fletcher on your team, you know, Andre takes his game serious, but at the same time, he has that, I should say, troublesome side to him. Andre had come to St. Lucian at times, speaking to Andre, and I would just turn my back on him and go. Because you just have to leave him alone at that time. It's not that he's being disrespectful, that's just Andre. And then when you look at Devon Smith, who I've known for a very long time, these are 2 different individuals. Both of them are intense when it comes to cricket. But in terms of personalities are different. And we need managers, we need coaches, we need captains who can understand those cultural differences in players. Because you have to be a man manager, and that is what made Clive Lloyd that successful. Viv Richards to a certain extent. But those who followed were not that much of a man manager. With I think the closest to that was Sammy, although he was seriously tested. And when he passed the test of the players, the board decided to kick him out. And we do not get soldiers going into a battle fighting for a president. Soldiers follow the NCOs into a battle. Soldiers put faith in a general to ensure the resources get to them. Soldiers fight for flag, they fight for country. They do not fight for an executive branch.
Um,
And
no, a question there. But in all that you're saying there, do you think? And
go,
Fletcher, if you want to respond to it, I mean, as a player, although I don't think it's so much an issue for you based on what you have done, but don't you think money is the problem? It comes down to money.
Well, right now, as I said, well, I don't know I don't know the account the amount of money the West Indies Cricket Board has, but money, it has to be a key factor in the development of cricket in the West Indies, because some of the things that you need were to aid in the development of cricket. Obviously, you need money to help you in that aspect. So it has a big part to play as to the me knowing what amount of money to be invested. I have no clue, but for sure, that's why I said maybe sponsors coming on board would help a lot in the development of West Indies cricket. It might be difficult because I guess because of us losing, they may not want to invest. But at the same time, if we really want West Indies cricket to be back on top, maybe we could put aside the ego and try to help as much as possible.
Yes, money is a factor. The reason why we play the 2-day cricket is because of money. The Wooded Islands board will tell you over and over again the reason they cannot play 4-day cricket is because they cannot afford to play 4-day cricket. And it's across their territories. The reason why we have such a blunted structure of cricket in the Caribbean is because of funds. And that's why one of the points I made earlier on, if we forever going to say that we do not have money to improve the structure of the game, always going to be at position 9, 8, and 7 in all of the formats of the game. So we have to be either prepared to spend the money to develop our cricket structurally, or if we don't have the money, be prepared to remain where we are. Now, I just wanted to make the point that while I do blame the players for the position of the cricket at the frontline level, with making the same errors over and over again. At times looking at them, I feel sorry because I say to myself, here's a group of young men who came into a system that's inept, a system that is not prepared to develop them in the correct manner for international cricket. And they are exhibiting now what they are, products of a system that is substandard. So if you don't know what it is to bat for a day, 3/4 of a day, to save a test match. Remember, one of the points I made earlier on is that if a cricketer who's playing for West Indies has not batted in the hot sun to save a game after 3 days of cricket, how do you expect him to do the same when he's playing for West Indies? Now there's a talk about thinking of bringing Nicholas Puran to play Test cricket. So we bring in players to play Test cricket, talking about players with the potential to play Test cricket, who don't know when the last day they played a 4-day game, who don't know the last, well, if you don't play a 4-day game, you have not scored a century in 4-day cricket. This is the situation we are in right now, where we are arguing about recycling players and changing players for players who are still inept and underprepared. And it's not the fault of the player. It's the state of the cricket that we are in right now. The selectors, you're blaming selectors. Blaming selectors for what? What choice do the selectors have? The selectors can only select from the crop of cricketers that are presented to them. And if the crop of cricketers are underprepared, underdeveloped, then what do you expect the selectors to do? Create a miracle? That ain't happening. So at times I do feel for the players. I do feel for them that they are products of a system. It's like a child born in a drug-infested society. And you say to yourself that, what would have happened if he was taken out of that situation before he reached 4 years or 5 years old? Maybe he or she would have been a better person today. But when you see what he or she is exhibiting as a result of being a drug addict, you have to, hang your head. I mean, Toro can tell you that many times he goes home and he may see some of the people in the Karanaj community. And when he looked at some of them, would say to himself, boy, the only difference between me and them is that I had an opportunity to travel. They never got an opportunity. And maybe if they did, they would have been a different person today. So I still feel it for the players sometimes. I still feel it for them. They are so underprepared and so not ready for the cricket at this level that sometimes when we curse them and chastise them, they cannot take all of the blame. They have to take a lot of the blame, but they cannot take all of the blame. They're just victims of the structure that did not prepare them for cricket at the international level.
So,
Uh,
Mr. Mike, sorry for cutting. So, is it a case where I can say, um, at the club level, for example, in the Windwards, Grenada, to a lesser extent, where we can have 2 days cricket being played at the club level, so that maybe if you, whether you 19, 16 years old, you have an idea as to how intense it can be to play 2 days cricket, and then fighting for that spot to play for Grenada, knowing that you just came from playing 2 days cricket, and then you move that from 2 days into 3 days cricket, where Grenada play against St. Vincent, Dominica, and St. Lucia, so that we then feeling that pressure on our body in 3 days cricket. And I'm not saying doing it for 1 year and then forgetting about it afterwards. But if we continue doing that, the youths coming up can actually have a idea and be ready for when first class cricket comes around, um, which is 4 days, and we playing more 4 day cricket than getting the chance to play test cricket. At least are well prepared mentally, physically, to compete against whosoever
No,
opposition we come up against.
unfortunately,
I agree with
cannot
Andre.
you cannot be prepared for international cricket by coming through a system of playing 2 day cricket. And then when you reach 17, 18 years, you're just starting to play 3 day cricket. And then you go and play for
Yeah,
Grenada
but
cricket,
yeah, but
Grenada 2 day cricket. You see?
yeah, but what I'm saying, at the same time, you don't want to just use, for example, a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old straight into playing 4 days. His body is not well developed as yet, so it's just a process. At least you're getting his mind ready, instead of him playing just a 50 over game, and
Well, my
then
comment is that when you played for when okay, if that is the case, and you reach up to the point from what you're saying, and then you're ready to play for Grenada, and then you're selected on the Grenada team to play. And I can ask, these players that you just selected for Grenada, has any one of them batted for a day? Any one of them faced this amount of overs to make a century?
but
But
that
it,
is
it
where
Yeah,
that is where I mentioned.
even though the body may not be developed to play 4 day cricket, but the question is, because it has happened before, there was a
Yeah,
guy in
I,
training
under,
the other day. There was a
I
guy.
understand what you're saying, but at the same time, obviously, once you get selected to play for Grenada, you have to perform. So I don't expect selectors to just pick you for picking sake because I like you, but picking you because of performance.
yeah, but Harold, Andre, let me ask this: how many of our, let's look at fast bowling. How many of our fast bowlers now first spell quote unquote 6 over morning, in the afternoon their pace has dropped considerably, and if you about between about 4:30 calling them for another spell, they may be slower than medium paces. Um, and I think that is where Andre is going. Preparation, I think Harold, you alluded to that also. The amount of time players spend training, preparing themselves physically and mentally. How many of our batsmen today and our young fast bowlers, let's say on a Saturday or even on a Sunday morning, 9, 10, 11 in the morning when the sun is blazing hot, would be out on the field training to get their body used to that hot sun, to that pressure. How many of our young fast bowlers will work and say, you know something? I gonna between 10 and 12, I will be bowling as fast as I can to get that inner, that latent strength. And while we are trying to get Inter-Windward Islands cricket back to 4 days, I firmly believe that if our players train hard, and Andre can respond and tell me if I'm right or wrong, if our players train hard, quantitatively and qualitatively, we would have a better foundation. I don't want to call names, but in that current crop of players who just played that last test in New Zealand, I mean, when you look at some of our fast bowlers, come on, who is looking at them at the island level, at the club level? I am not a certified coach, but I will tell you something. Alzari Joseph should be delivering a lot closer to the wicket. With his height, he should be getting that ball to move away from the right hander. Okay, somebody needs to work with him to develop his body so that he could bowl at a sustained pace for longer periods of time. But that is not there. Now, people will tell me I am picking on him. I am not picking on him. I still believe that he was rushed into Test cricket without having that needed foundation. We growing up would be doing a lot of work around the yard, on the farm, wherever, running, all kind of things, and our body developed. Our young players now do not have that, so they have to go through a preparation period, you know, to prepare them. I can take Andre at that level, and mentally, Andre would be better prepared than a lot of the players now because he has spent years training. We do not have that now.
You mentioned Dwayne Gill, and let me just say this: Dwayne Gill is a manifestation of a person who, first and foremost, truly loves cricket. I can see that from head to toe. I mean, this guy is part of an era even before his time of genuine love for the game. You see? And I know that Dwayne Gill has all of the great intentions for the development of the game locally, regionally, nationally. But what I am afraid of is that because of the lack of resources for that development, he's going to find himself mired into an abyss. And by the time his tenure is over, unless he intends to stay as long as Walter St. John, then he may or may not see West Indies cricket be back up and running again. But while I know his heart is in the right place, and I know that Grenada would benefit from his kind of leadership, but he has to get the support. This is the support financially from the business sector to pour that money into development of the game in Grenada and the Windward Islands level to move on. Because I'm afraid if he does not, then he would just be part of the same problem and not part of the solution. But my heart goes out to Dwayne Gill, because if you ask me, anyone who deserves to be at the helm of cricket in Grenada and playing a leading role in cricket in the Windward Islands, Dwayne Gill fits that mold down to the T. I really admire him, very much so.
Okay. Let me just read some comments there. Well, Dwayne Gill is actually saying, tell the guys to drop in at any franchise in the Caribbean and report what they are seeing. Stop by the Grenada National Stadium from 8:30 a.m. Monday to Friday. Ask Fletcher what the training regime is like at the volcanoes. Well, I think Fletcher trains with the volcanoes. And he said, Harold is right. Resources are lacking. Just before Fletcher, you comment on that. Let me just let me see. I wanted to comment on this also. Let me go, folks.
I have the no-look shot. Hopefully, the bowler will bowl in that area so that I can play it.
That's huge. That's massive. That is massive. Where's that come from?
That's
gone back to Grenada there.
It's gone from first gear to...
High into the Canberra evening. Just kept going and going. What a reply. Hadn't been scored off in his previous 7 deliveries. Xavier Bartlett, pull the trigger, son.
Is that a no-look shot?
Well, the commentators, well, not just the commentators, but I read some of the articles after that.
Robertson,
said,
that's good Grenada breadfruit in that shot.
they haven't seen that sort of excitement in Australia in recent times, Fletcher. What has been the feedback like, Fletcher, since then?
To be honest, everyone is loving it. I can't stop laughing. It everyone see that it went viral. As I said before, it wasn't something that I've been practicing. It just comes naturally, and yeah, I'm loving it. But at the same time, it's not about only playing one particular shot. I just have to be. I'll always be hard on myself. I just have to be as more consistent. So as I said, yeah, I would love to play more of that shot, but at the same time, I would like to get more runs under my belt and make sure that I can, represent myself well, Grenada and West Indies on a whole.
Harold, can I ask Fletcher something? Fletch, despite the pains West Indies cricket is going through now, in your travels, how much value is still placed on our cricket product around the world?
To be honest, from playing in so many franchises and leagues, everyone they respect. To be honest with you, they respect us as cricketers. They give us certain roles to play in their teams, and they admire us as players, the way we go about training, our batting, our fielding. When you look at the Bravo and the guys who can field exceptionally well, not living up myself, but and they admire us, and it's just that, as I said, we just need to do it more consistently. That is what I believe is lacking. Yes, we always say that the ability is there, but to do it on a consistent basis, we need to do that more, and then we will see more results. Not only on the franchise level, but we need to do that on the international level, because if you look at it, when some of the players go out and play franchise cricket, we dominate, and but it's just that when we get at the international level, that's where it's lacking. If we all can follow, well, if we follow India cricket as well, the current players, none of them can actually leave India and go and play anywhere else in the world, but yet still India is dominating Tests, ODIs, and T20 cricket. So even though it's an argument where we as players haven't gotten the opportunity to go and play county cricket, but at the same time, the Indian players, they are not playing any county cricket, but yet still they will come to Australia, go to England, and still perform. So it all boils down to the preparation and what we're doing behind the scene as to us being ready and fit to play in all conditions.
Andre, sorry, I don't know. So what you're saying that if I do not know if it will happen, but for argument's sake, if Mike, myself, Harold are brought around a table with persons like Dwayne Gill and the Iraqi, of Cricket West Indies, and we work and put together um, a set of objectives, short term, medium, and long term, and we seriously work with what is available, do you think that we can begin to achieve real results?
Well, anyone placed in that position and are keen in bettering West Indies cricket and showing that love and passion for the game, I believe they are capable enough to mend whatsoever problem there is and ensure that cricket West Indies cricket in the West Indies, sorry, gets back up to that position where it once was.
So we need to get players like you and the others to come back and play more regional cricket to help the younger ones developing, because this is what India is doing. They are ensuring that their top players play locally. I know the argument will come up about money, about resources. But if regionally each franchise like Volcanoes would have 10 matches a season. But if there is a balance and we say, okay, Andre, can you play 4 games or stay around with the Volcanoes franchise for 4 games? Help. And that is done with the other franchises where the players can learn what it is to be in such a setup. And well, we still have another problem because you only have about 2 persons traveling with each franchise, a coach and a manager. And those two are responsible to help the players cope with the pressures of traveling and playing mentally and physically. And I think I've been around the teams, I've been around the competitions, and I can sometimes see the stress. Managers to do this, players, how do they deal with that? Um, I will go out on a limb now and say this. Cricket West Indies one needs to do an audit, a manpower audit now, in terms of persons working at the secretariat, who is doing what, are they really needed? Two, you need to look at our top coaches, get them together and develop a coaching manual for ourselves. And three, get players like Fletcher and Pollard and Lara and Chandapal and Sammy and all the others. Get them together and identify, come up with a structure, and let us start working.
But Fletcher, you already training with the Volcanoes, right?
To me?
Yeah, you train with the Volcanoes.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
When it's available.
Well, it's obvious. Well, if I'm not in the country, I can train with them. But once I'm in Grenada, I make myself available to train with them. Whenever they are ready, I always train with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to take a minute or two to applaud, because I'm not too sure if it's the Grenada Cricket Association or whoever else is responsible for the broadcasting of the last parish game on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah, cricket.
Yeah, the cricket.
Yeah.
Rain came after a few overs, and the game got abandoned.
Yeah, that's the GCA. Yeah.
Right. Well, that was a Cricket Association, right? Well, let me applaud them for that, because I'm telling you, as an old diehard, I nearly collapsed with excitement when I heard it was happening, and I saw improvement in the manner of the picture that was being presented with the coming from both ends. I don't know if anyone else in the Grenada Islands is doing it, but I want to applaud Grenada for such and hoping that it will continue, because getting the opportunity to look at cricket at any level, is it's a big plus for the game. And Lord knows we can spend 10,000 weeks talking about the media involvement in sports and in cricket. We can do that, and that's another program altogether.
Yes, certainly.
But I want to applaud the Grenada Cricket Association for doing such, and hope that it will continue. I think it's a move in the right direction.
Yeah, well, and Dwayne is saying that there is more live streaming of a new tournament to come in January and complements the Grenada Cricket Association.
Wonderful.
So
Yeah,
you have more coming. And I see in St. Vincent, they're also doing that with the
VPL.
The T10. Right.
VPL.
The VPL the other day. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there's some improvements, as we say, in terms of visibility of the sport, and probably thanks to COVID, COVID.
I was so surprised when I saw the picture when the guy, drives through mid wicket and see the ball by itself moving to the boundary. I says, "Wow, we're moving up in our coverage. I love it."
Yeah.
So
it's good for the sport, especially in the Windward Islands. And but he's saying that that it's expensive but necessary in these times. Expensive but necessary, especially where they're not getting any revenue for it. But it's welcome, guys.
Harold raised a point a while ago.
Talking about no revenue. Well, that's the era that we came out of.
With no revenue. Yeah.
Every day. Different time.
Harold raised a point a while ago, and I would like Andre's feedback, the role of the media.
Oh Lord, don't go there.
No. please. Don't hand me my head too early. The reason why, because
I warned you.
Listen now, you said it. We came out of an era where there was no revenue. I have gone covering events in other islands, and it is just I make sure I have my transport money, accommodation, meals. But in terms of making a profit or making money for oneself, no, because I find a lot of satisfaction when a player picks up a newspaper and sees a picture of himself or a relative or a friend being featured. And I know psychologically there is a lot of positive impact. And that is why I'd like Andre to come in, because I have been to games and the players come and ask me, hey, what do you think? Did I play okay? They come and ask you that on the side, and you have that chat with them. Okay, because I know they are concerned. And some persons take the media for granted. But I know that we have a critical role to play.
Robertson, you're correct to say that some people take the media for granted, but the media in itself has to take a lot of the blame. I'm warning you, that's another program. Because if we stop on this, there will be no stopping.
So you have already given Mike a topic for next year.
but I mean, but it's a good point you raised too, because I know Fletcher himself would have, will understand that, especially in a place like Australia where there's so much media savvy in terms of sports, a lot of newspapers in particular, print, and sports related paper, cricket paper to be exact, so things like that. I think Fletcher will be able to relate to that, and probably maybe able to comment on how sometimes he is always in the spotlight, sometimes the media contacting him for interviews, etc. Fletcher.
Yeah, the media plays a big part. As Robert mentioned, footage is as important as well, because you as a player, you always want to go back and look at the mistakes that you made and how you can correct it. As to the media personnel, it's up to you all to decide whether you guys meet with whichever board it is. So, for example, if you know there is a Windward Island tournament going on, or even a local tournament in Grenada or St. Lucia, it doesn't matter, irrespective of the country. There can be some sort of agreement as to what can be done, and as you said, some of you guys do it voluntarily. If there is a case where you guys can be compensated for the transportation or accommodation, because even we, well, playing for Grenada, well, myself, we don't really get pay playing to represent our country, and to be honest with you, I'm very okay with that, because you know cricket, yes, cricket right now is a business, but coming up, you play for the love of the game, so it's not always about the money aspect, but yeah, Mikey, sometimes when you're playing in the big leagues and you can actually switch your television on and hear your name calling in one of the news, um you know also reading in newspapers and seeing your name, it kind of give you that excitement and that eager to wanting to perform. At the same time, as we all know, the social media is there as well, and sometimes even when you do bad and you see the comments, sometimes you feel kind of not just disappointed but
No, but Andre, to tell you the truth, and I'm straightforward. I mean, there's on Facebook, there's a group on Facebook, a cricket group on Facebook that I seem to be part of. I don't know. It's a total abomination. I'm convinced these people do not follow cricket. All they do is to just look for something bad to say that evokes conversation, and that's it. Because
to be honest,
for the life of me, I don't understand what in heaven's name they talk about sometimes. I am convinced they don't know cricket, they don't follow cricket. You understand? But all they know is about, all they understand is about who is from Barbados, who from Guyana, who from Trinidad. And if I'm a Guyanese, I will support you if something go wrong. They say, well, look what the Guyanese do. All their whole projection about West Indies cricket is based on the island you're from. And I would not be privy to that group on Facebook. Absolutely not, because I refuse to be part of this garbage of a conversation. I believe
some players, looking at comments, it can motivate them, in doing well, whereas others it might affect them, and sometimes I ask myself, if I'm playing for Afghanistan or some other team, I'm wondering sometimes if I'm really playing for West Indies, because when you read some of the comments, it's like I'm the only one playing, and it shouldn't be that way. The public has a big role to play as well in motivating players. Yes, a player might have a bad game, but instead of you degrading that player and saying things to that player and trying to compare that player with other players, to me doesn't make any sense in West Indies cricket. It should be a case where, yes, you're hurting, yes, we want to win, but at the same time, what can be done as a public to help develop that player? What you can, it's not always about, yes, trying to say nice things, but at the same time there is constructive criticism that can be made where the player himself can say, okay, you know what, I can do this, I can take a and try to work on my game with the help of the coaches and whosoever that is around, rather than just bashing players or bashing sake because you want somebody from your island to play for West Indies.
That's why now more than ever, it's part of the preparation for cricketers these days that they have to be trained in how do you consume things in social media. Because what you just mentioned, Andre, of what the comments you're hearing, this is the fact that we have to live with today as a sport,
yes,
today's era. So I think it's important that in the developmental cycle of a player in all sports, you have to be taught how do you go about responding to these comments on social media, and why it is important that you don't let certain things get to you, and how do you try to put that aside? Because the same comments you're talking about could be coming on a day before the day before a game, or a few hours before a game, and could shatter somebody's nerves based on who you are personally. So I think now more than ever, students have to be trained in how do you consume things like that, because really some comments you need to just throw them in the garbage. Some of them.
Well, Mr.
Harold,
To be honest, I have one concept is that if you cannot face the media, to be honest with you, I try my best not to read comments. Whereas as I mentioned, some players may look at the comments and it will impact them positively. But if you know it will have a negative effect on you, then why put yourself in that spot where you read comments and then go into the game and it affects you? Because at the end of the day, is your game that is being affected and not the person who made the comment. So it all boils down to you as the individual. What works for you best is the same as a routine, no matter what sport you're playing. So if you know you have a particular routine, then you follow that routine to get the best results. So if you know, yes, you for sure you will be on social media, but reading the comments might hamper your performance, then don't read it.
All right, let me get
sorry,
let me
Mike.
just get some comments there. And Robbie, and that's to you also. Dwayne Gill is saying, I want to commend Robertson for his efforts in covering cricket in the Windward Islands. I know the sacrifice he makes. So Dwayne is saying thank you, Robbie, and we do know that you do your travel throughout the island, and and as they said, sometimes voluntary just to cover the cricket and cover sports in particular. I have some other comments there just before you speak. That's what made Carib Update different to other newspapers. When it was published, today's sports coverage is non-existent unless the or athlete box somebody by the Esplanade Mall. And then there is Robbie. Toro is saying, Robbie from the old school like us. Robbie, Harold, Mike, myself, and others did a lot of work for the cause with no money. Time for somebody to pay. West Indies might be getting real curtailed these days. Sobers and the greats were exploited in the past. So I'm glad a poor black fellas like Andre and Gail from the Caribbean could now make a living wage from playing cricket. Only disappointment is that they cannot beat an ant on any given day. Toro, it's after 7 minutes to 8 Sunday morning in Australia.
Okay, he's a good fella. You understand? So,
it's minutes to 8. It's minutes to 8 in Sunday morning in Australia. Andre is just accompanying us. He's getting ready to have breakfast. By the way, Andre, you have a game. You have a game today. You have a game later today.
No, we're playing until the 26th, which is Boxing
Day. Okay, so that's that'll be Christmas Day. This part of the world. Robbie,
Andre was saying something, and one of the issues I have with persons who write about players is much of the times, one, they were never around when the quote-unquote incident took place. Two, they have no relationship of any kind with the players. Even some of my fellow media persons, okay? And it's one thing I have learned. Players feel comfortable around media persons when they have seen those persons come into games and making the effort to cover games over a period of time. A favorite Grenadier player of mine is young Stewarty. I first saw Stewart playing Windward's under 15 cricket in 2013.
Yeah, that's Emmanuel Stewart. Yeah.
Emmanuel Stewart. And I always looked at him as a future West Indies wicketkeeper batsman. And there are a few other players. And although I do have contact information with those players, I do not contact them, and Angie will tell you and say, hey, what was said at that meeting? What did the coach tell you? No, I will not cross that line, and I think we should not cross that line as media persons. I will ask Andre, what happened? He played that shot. Why? What happened out there? Analyze your game. And when you speak to the players, sometimes you say, no, I will not write. Because sometimes the players tell you of a situation that impacted them, that caused them to fail. So while, yes, we have a responsibility as media persons to be upfront, we still have to protect the players, especially in a time like this, because some of the players sometimes they come from home. I mean, look at Roach. His dad died 2 days before a test match. So when you're writing as a media person, I will take that into consideration because he already suffering some pain. Why add on to it? You know, I mean, one-on-one, I will give them chat. I just get my peak on. But it is just part of that West Indian sporting family that has the developed. And I am saying this, and I hope maybe next year Mike could have this as a topic: the role of the media in sports development. Because
Certainly.
we have we really have a critical role to play. Really, really have a critical role to play. Not just in covering the sport, but in sometimes we are de facto coaches
Well, Robert,
and psychologists.
Robertson, we have lambasted that many times on this program already with Mike talking about the media. I'm telling you, we it's like a beating a dead donkey over the years talking about it.
Yeah, we even had Paul Roberts, yeah, an entire program. But Andre, I want to thank you for being with us. It has been a pleasure. I know it's earlier than usual getting up on a Sunday morning. But do you have training today by chance? You have training?
No, we don't. We're preparing to travel, so
You
no
heading to
training.
where you traveling to now? To which
I
state?
think it's Harvard.
Harvard. Okay.
Yeah.
Some
Andre,
very
Andre, if I could come in here, let me say that it's been a pleasure. First time being on a panel with you. Okay, and I'm proud at least that you're on a West Indies team and you are Grenadian. So that in itself, I'm proud of. And let me say, God bless and keep the flag high. It's a pleasure being here with you, man. And
Thanks, Mr.
all right. I like how you say Mr. Harold. You make me feel important. But I'm still proud of you and happy to be here with you, Andre, and all the best. And wishing you the best of health and that you'll have a continued career of some more years for the franchises and West Indies cricket. So keep the flag flying.
All right, thank you very much.
Same here, Andre. Good to see. I've not seen that face in a while. But before you go, one question, Andre. What's the name of that hairstyle? Is it a tomahawk?
you know my name for that one, Andre?
No, it's an all-in-one. It's an all-in-one.
Okay, I will leave it at that.
All right,
Stay blessed, bro.
Yeah, well, good to know. Well, I want to wish you all the best, Andre. I know we will speak, in the coming days. But Merry Christmas to you. I know you're spending the Christmas and New Year in Australia, away from family. But all the best for the season, Andre.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mike. All right, have a blessed day.
Okay, then. Thank you very much, folks. That's Andre Fletcher, who joined us live from Tasmania in Australia, where it's now almost 8 o'clock. It's now 7:43 a.m. Sunday morning in Tasmania, Australia. Andre with us, folks. As we get ready to wrap up, I do have just before. I have some giveaway. I didn't give the answer. I know some answers. Sorry, some answers are coming into my first question. How many sub 44 seconds Kirani James has recorded in the 400 meters? Get 3 of these recorded times. I'm waiting for that answer, folks. I saw some answers came in far away from it. And the question number 2 is, what's the most number of maiden overs bowled in a single edition of a World Cup tournament? 2 questions now. I'm giving you back to back. We have 4 questions in all, but I'm giving you 2 back to back. Folks, if you're watching, if you're listening, whatever you're doing, you can send in the answers to those questions. Once again, the first one is, how many sub 44 seconds Kirani James has recorded in the 400 meters? And give 3 of these recorded times. Even if you give me how many sub 44 and you can't give me 3 of the recorded times, I may still give you a concession and give you the ticket. And the other one is, what's the most number of maiden overs bowled in a single edition of a World Cup tournament? You give the correct answers, you get a ticket for a virtual bingo where you can win as much as $25,000. The bingo, virtual bingo, you can play it from anywhere in the world, whether it's in New York, Toronto, Australia, the moon, the stars, wherever you are, and you have access to the internet, you can play the virtual bingo. The Waggy T Virtual Bingo, you can get a ticket for that if you give me the correct answer to these 4 questions in all. I give you 2 now. I'm not seeing any of the correct answers coming in. Correct, I said. A 3rd question, if I may persist, because we have 15 minutes remaining. Name the boxer who eliminated Grenadian Bernard Bunny Wilson in the welterweight category at the 1984 Olympic Games. That's question number 3. So let's go again. Question 1, how many sub 44 seconds Kirani James has recorded in the 400 meters? Question number 2, what's the most number of maiden overs bowled in a single edition of a World Cup tournament? Question number 3, name the boxer who eliminated Grenadian Bernard Bunny Wilson in the welterweight category at the 1984 Olympic Games. And the final question is, name one player who was fielded in all 6 CONCACAF Gold Cup matches played by Grenada. Grenada played in 2 editions of the CONCACAF Gold Cup, 3 matches in one, 3 in the other. I know Harold is thinking because Harold would have attended these matches, But there's one player.
Long time ago.
Yes, 2011 and 2009. Yeah, we travel wherever to Florida, where you and Titus were there. Yeah, but
Yep.
Name one player who fielded in all 6 CONCACAF Gold Cup matches played by Grenada. Wow, answers coming in, but still too much away from that. So let's yes, guys. So we can do a little wrap up on that. Very interesting discussion, and nice having Fletcher on with us with his take. And as indicated, Fletcher is actually part of the Dwayne is saying, good panel, you should have them back. I know, Dwayne, you enjoyed the back and forth. Yeah, it was interesting. And I know, Robert is on our chat group, so he presents a lot of arguments regarding the cricket, and cricket especially in the Windward Islands. And I don't know if, Dwayne, you heard it, that the Romel currency, that means that Romel has retired from playing Windward's cricket, because he's now the president of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Cricket Association, Inc. And quite a number of votes, 36 votes. His nearest tallied 20, like Dougal James, and then Daniel Macmillan just 10. That's quite an endorsement for Romel Currency to lead cricket in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Guys, any wrap up there from you?
Quickly, if I can ask Robertson
Yes.
a question. Robertson, you're St. Lucian, right?
Hold on. Yeah.
Robert,
Yeah, Robbie.
St. Lucian,
Yes.
right? What about folks
Yes.
like Rupert Polius and Marshall Francis? Are they still around?
Oh, I know Marshall, Rupert. I'm not too sure. I will double check, but
George Alfred.
these are guys who were legends in their own way, and these were guys who played a lot of softball under cricket, you know, and
George Alfred.
George died. He was
Right.
he
Oh.
worked in boxing for quite a long time. George Alfred, left-handed bat.
Correct.
Yes. But just before you go on, Harold, one of the questions that Mike brought up, I don't know if people are aware. He mentioned a original legend in his own right, Bunny Wilson, at OCS boxing. He was one of the very few boxers that the St. Lucian fighters just had an issue getting past. I can tell you. And he was one of the first boxers I saw who executed that overhead right hand with such effect. He broke the nose of Lamontagne and won, and he did some damage to Rosamond Cleary. I don't know if you all recall Rosamond Cleary.
Over the left
Sorry,
eye.
I didn't hear that.
As it was over the left eye, the damage over the left eye.
Yes, I think that was it. Well, Cleary incidentally got shot by a stray bullet in a robbery. He's been crippled for a long time. Former Caribbean welterweight champ. As you say that, even our friend Trevor Thwaites, the OCS have produced some very good boxers.
Well, you see, that's another program in itself.
Yes, true.
That's another program.
Program
It started, it wouldn't finish.
It wouldn't finish yet. And even Kirani. I remember, and being in Grenada in 2008 and watching Kirani run in Grenada. And when I went back, I told my friends, watch it. And then in 2009 at Carista, and sad to say, because of injury, Bartholomew. And these were two 400-meter runners I saw who could have dominated globally. But
there's
such is life.
So many of our sportsmen who had such a good beginning and came out of it. There's a guy, Rudy Paul. Remember years ago, there was all this, and I asked myself, whatever happened to Rudy Paul? Then there's a guy in Trinidad, Calicharan. What's his first name? Kirsten Calicharan. I heard this guy was making triple centuries, double centuries. So you would think then that this is definitely someone who is ready and on the way to become a West Indies cricketer. Never heard nothing from him again.
But Harold, there's an issue I don't know if you all have touched it before, the role of the family. And I'm saying this because in St. Lucia there's a young cricketer, Akim Ogis, and the role his dad plays. Dwayne would know his dad, Wayne Ogis. Dwayne would know who he is. And vis-a-vis a young player here who represented the West Indies when they won the Under-19 Youth World Cup. And this young player, for a variety of reasons, have not been able to make that leap.
Well,
and in terms of a class batsman, he's a joy to watch. But somehow he has not made it, and it is just painful that so many players have not, and the role of the family, the role of people in the community have a lot to do with the development of those players.
Just before you let me go back to question number one, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I think we have I see a correct answer for this. So it's Joel Phillip came up with the correct. He says 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So Kirani James had 7 sub 44s in his career. 2012, London, 43.94. 43.96, 2013 in Paris. In 2014, he ran 2 sub 44, 43.97 in Eugene, Oregon, and 43.74 in Lausanne in the Diamond League. Then in Eugene, Oregon again in 2015, 43.95. The World Cup Championship, the World Championships, I should say, in Beijing, China, 43.74. And then in the Rio Olympic Games, 43.76 to finish second. So congratulations.
Sounds like that was well googled.
Yeah, yeah, it seems so.
So I apologize.
Yeah, so Joel Phillip came up with the correct answer, 7. So therefore we have a winner for that one. We're still looking for what's the most number of maiden overs bowled in a single edition of a World Cup tournament. Also, name the boxer who eliminated Grenadian Bernard Bunny Wilson in the welterweight category at the 1984 Olympic Games. And then name one player who was fielded in all 6 CONCACAF Gold Cup matches played by Grenada. That one is so simple, folks. Simple. Yeah. So we don't have a correct answer. I'm looking for correct answers. So if you don't see a correct answer, if you don't see me showing it up, is therefore there's a lot of guessing going on. A lot of guessing. But for those who know boxing, probably call Buddy and ask Buddy, who knocked you out? Who knocked you out? Probably Cherry. Could you recall who it is that played in all 6 Gold Cup thing? Call a player, find out. This one might be a bit tricky. I know, Harold, in terms of the second one, the most number of maiden overs bowled in a single edition of the World Cup tournament might be a bit tricky, but people can make guess. You can just make a guess. You might be lucky in that. Folks, thank you very much. I want to appreciate your input on the program, albeit cricket centric, but I'm certain coming the new year we'll be able to talk a lot more. But finally, before you go, I want to hear from you first, Robert, and then Robertson, and then Harold. What's your expectations for 2021 in terms of sports, not just cricket, but sports, taking in consideration the pandemic and probably what are the limitations? And for some, we understand that there will be budget cuts and and cutbacks, and we have seen in some instances where even in Grenada, Harold, as we've seen, that there should have been a mini meet today, but because of the new regulations regarding the scaling back, the restrictions and all these sort of things, that they had to put off the final mini meet for this year. So looking forward to 2021, what are your expectations? Robert, first you.
I'm not placing my expectations that high. I more or less have a request in that we pool our resources together to further the development of sport. Because we do not know how long the pandemic will be with us. So we need to pool our resources together because there's reduced finances available. So if we can pool our resources together individually and collectively in the interest of developing sports, um, then we will begin making headway. And I think the same needs to be done by the associations. The OECS governments need to reactivate the OECS sports desk if sports in the island is to not just continue, but to be seen as a development socio-economically. But really and truly, Mike and Harold, I don't have no expectations because of the uncertainty in
All right, and Harold.
I can only echo what Robertson is saying. Everything will be dependent on the situation with the COVID-19, because that has a massive impact on the ability of sporting organizations to function in any tangible manner. And so it's like a wait and see. Now, the little tournaments that can be played here and there, let's hope that they can continue to do so, because we don't know how severe the pandemic will be in the next 3, 4, 5 months. Some of the islands have little tournaments here, some of the schools have little games there, but nothing significant. Internationally, we have cricket. I was happy at least that we were able to, even though there were no spectators at the games, England to begin with, I like at least the atmosphere of the crowd that the TV coverage gave us. That was satisfying. But let's hope that it's all about the pandemic. Let's hope that the pandemic will give us the opportunity, when it's gone, to come back to a normal life. How much normal that's going to be, it's dependent on the pandemic. But I do hope that if we do get back to some normalcy, that the whole situation of the club structure in sports, what would clubs, how do we develop clubs? How do we get communities to be involved in nurturing the people from that community to play sports in an organized manner? Because that's where we came from. The bedrock is the communities and clubs. We have to get back to the communities and clubs. We have to get back to nurturing. We have to get back to the cradle to develop from there. That will come about, of course, with lots of finance and lots of resources. How best economies and business people can pump resources into sports these days, that is questionable. Because now with the pandemic again, people are losing their jobs. Profitability is not that exorbitant as they were before. So it's at a standstill, really. We're at a crossroads with everything, sports included. So I really hope that we can see some light at the end of the tunnel. But 2021, not looking that bright. I don't foresee any great headway in terms of development of sport across the Caribbean to begin with. And so it's just a wait and see attitude, so it's topsy-turvy world we live in today, but we just have to hope and pray that things would get back to some normality and we can have life as we had it before. But right now we have to think of ourselves or immediate families, getting to work and getting back home, and not titivating and gallivanting too much as we love to do in the Caribbean, in the hope that this pandemic can be eradicated. But sports doesn't look to the future for sports. The immediate future for sports doesn't look too good as a result of the pandemic right now. If you ask me for 2021, I would say no great expectations at all.
Yep. That's the reality. I want to thank you very much, Harold and Robinson, for being part and accompanying me through this journey. I want to thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for the opportunity. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Robertson.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a pleasant holiday and God bless yourselves and your families.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay then. Right. So that's Harold and Robinson joining us live, and definitely putting a spin on so many things there. Let me see. Tori is saying, Harold, like your belly getting soft, man. You look like you want to stop rallying around the West Indies. Oh, hey, Sam, Edwin Sam, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. Great show again, Mr. B. Yes, thank you very much. Thanks for keeping us company. Let's, I want to go back to the number 2. Well, Joel, I think you may just have to, well, the maximum is actually 2. So the correct answer is actually, let me get the correct answer for that, is 19 by England pacer Bob Willis in 1983. And do we have a winner? Yes, we do have a winner. It's once again Joel Phillip, 19 overs, maiden overs. What I think Joel is busy on Google, man, and doing some serious research. You know, so he has won himself two tickets, and until if we don't get, well, we're wrapping up, so I'll just have to do a smart giveaway off camera, though. I'll give a smart giveaway. Name the boxer who eliminated Grenadian Bunny Wilson in the welterweight category at the 1984 Olympic Games. We don't have a winner for that, but just by way of information, I will let you know that is actually the answer is Roland Omori of Nigeria. He actually stopped Bunny Wilson in the third round referee stop contest, a head blow, and he's from Nigeria. And our final question was, name one player who was fielded in all 6 CONCACAF Gold Cup matches played by Grenada. And it was a very, very simple answer. And here is the answer to that question. It's Anthony Modeste. Anthony Modeste. He played in all 6 matches. The other person who played in 5 is Ricky Curry Charles. But Anthony Modeste played in all 5 of the Grenada's game in the CONCACAF Gold Cup tournament. In fact, that photo is actually him as the captain in the Gold Cup tournament. So, folks, I want to thank you once again for being with us. Toro must find somewhere. Who Willis was bowling against West Indies? Yes, Toro. Yeah, probably West Indies. Always finding a way to beat up on West Indies, Harold. I know you will have some tough words for your boy, Toro. You know, West Indies will bounce back in 2021, Toro. And we know we'll come back at you. Once again, thank you very much. Join us next year, God's willing, well, January. I think it's probably the 8th of January will be our first program. I want to thank you. And as indicated, we'll try to have some more discussions, especially as Harold suggested. You see, that club structure is not just a problem in Grenada, but I think throughout the OECS in particular. So probably Harold and Robinson, and I think Reg Perez says he wants to be back to talk about that whole club structure. We have to talk about that because we know how important is the club structure, and we see the demise of sports in the OECS. And despite the little sparks here and there, we've seen the demise, and it's something we really want to speak about. And I think that will be a program in itself, and definitely we will get that going in the new year. And one other footnote before we wrap up there is that in the new year also, we have already made contact with some greats, the Alistair Telesford, the heads, Tang, well, you know, some of the guys from Victoria who played for Hurricanes, still alive. They will be on the program. Also, we have not finalized it yet, but made initial contact with Tyrone Sapat Habin, speak about football and cricket and his time representing Grenada. I mean, you know, we have a lot to talk about. And some of these guys should be exciting to listen to and to hear from them. We're working along with the Grenada Football Association and that aspect of it. And we have made some initial contacts. So we will be part of that program. And thank you once again, Harold, for being with us. And we hope for you to join us with another program in the new year, most likely when we're talking about this club structure, because I know these things are very, sincere to you in terms of what you knew about club structure, club development, how it harnessed the communities, harnessed players, etc. Growing up, even without the finance, you know, I know these days we're talking a lot about money, but even with that, without the resources, but people are just committed to see the development. So once again, thank you very much for being part of our program. And as always, I want you to have a pleasant weekend. And for those, because of no program in the next 2 weeks, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.